Chapter 788. Before Yang Dingtian's demonic sky-splitting lightning could penetrate Wu Daozi's body, an incomparably powerful celestial qi energy from his opponent's sword had already attacked fiercely. The two energies collided fiercely. Boom! In an instant, an astonishing light burst forth, and Yang Dingtian's whole body flew thousands of meters away like a straw. Wu Daozi suddenly clutched his chest and looked at the broken sword in his hand with a look of disbelief. Puffed! A mouthful of blood suddenly floated out, and Wu Daozi couldn't help but look down at his heart. There was a completely pierced hole from his chest to his back, and he could even see the situation behind him. Streams of blood constantly gushed out from his mouth and nose. He gasped for breath with all his might. His entire body was trembling rapidly. His robust body was aging rapidly, and his black hair was turning white rapidly. Of course, this was entirely because Wu Daozi stood motionless during the fight, so his heart was pierced. Otherwise, even if Yang Dingtian had the demonic spirit mist cloak, he wouldn't be able to stab a half-saint powerhouse. His opponent's body could even surge with a powerful celestial qi shield, which could fiercely push away anyone who came close. Wu Daozi gently squatted down, and then only saw a green energy quickly spread to the wound on his heart. Then, the wound on his chest was quickly healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than a quarter of an hour, this terrible wound disappeared without a trace. Then, Wu Daozi's muscles returned to compact and healthy, and his originally white hair continued to turn back to black and shiny. This was the power of a second-class evil spirit. Even if his heart was pierced, he could still completely recover. At this time, Yang Dingtian was not feeling so good at all, as if every part of his body was crazily being torn apart. Boundless pain almost filled his whole body. He couldn't even lift the sword in his hand. Wu Daozi, who had completely recovered, looked at Yang Dingtian. Sir Yang Dingtian, I believe you can no longer withstand my next fatal blow, so I advise you to either step aside and let me pass, or compromise and agree to my request. If I really launch a second attack, what will the consequences be? I can't imagine it. Yang Dingtian didn't consume the sacred water pellet, and continued to crazily pour out profound energy from his energy sea, suppressing every damaged part of his profound veins. This allowed the injuries all over his body to recover. However, he was still unable to bear it, and spat out another mouthful of blood. In the process of the battle, one was not allowed to consume pills. After using profound qi to heal for a full 15 minutes, Yang Dingtian slowly stood up and said to Wu Daozi, "You come." Daochild's face fell. Yang Dingtian's body was already frightening, and his face was completely drained of blood. If he were to land a fatal blow, it was very likely that he would lose his life. Yang Dingtian had an absolute no-kill order, and he didn't have any evil spirit protecting him. However, it was impossible for him to give up just like that. Wu Daozi looked at Yang Dingtian and said coldly, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, I'm afraid of killing you, so I'm going to use strength that's infinitely close to that of a half-saint. If anything happens to you, don't blame me." Yang Dingtian suddenly operated the demon spirit demon fire, forming a powerful energy shield to protect his whole body. "Come on." Yang Dingtian gritted his teeth. At this moment, he was already seriously injured. What would happen if he was hit by a power that was infinitely close to that of a half-saint? Yang Dingtian didn't know, but it was impossible for him to retreat. Wu Daozi raised his broken sword and operated his profound energy. Suddenly, the sea surface surged, and the clouds surged in the sky. There was even a faint flash of lightning and thunder. Wu Daozi was clearly not a lightning-type expert, but when he attacked, there was still a faint power of lightning. "If you die, don't blame me," Wu Daozi said coldly. Then, the broken sword in his hand slashed down. Roar! Suddenly, a purple sword light, like a giant beast rushing out of the sky, roared and howled, charging toward Yang Dingtian. Suddenly, the sea surface below was torn apart by this energy, and a huge gap appeared in the middle. Boom! In the blink of an eye, this terrifying energy of tens of thousands of meters suddenly bombarded Yang Dingtian's body. Almost instantly, Yang Dingtian's demon spirit demon fire energy shield almost disintegrated inch by inch, and finally, it shattered into pieces. And the remaining terrifying energy suddenly drilled into Yang Dingtian's body. In an instant, it crazily tore all of his qi. Yang Dingtian only felt a sudden flash of white light in front of his eyes, and his whole body flew out thousands of meters, and instantly lost all consciousness. Yes, Yang Dingtian was wearing the demon spirit black armor, but it could only protect his chest. The enemy's profound energy could still madly pour in through the other Xian veins. The moment he flew out, Yang Dingtian almost became a man of blood. His whole body instantly cracked with countless cracks, and a lot of blood spurted out. If he was still a martial venerable, Yang Dingtian could completely withstand the attack of an opponent 4 or 5 stars higher than him. However, the higher one's cultivation base was, the more impossible it would be to skip levels. At this time, the energy released by Wu Daozi was infinitely close to that of a semi-sage. It could be regarded as the same level as a 9-star 9th grade Great Grandmaster. But the actual energy level was completely different by several times. It was completely unbearable power. Yang Dingtian floated in the air motionless. After a full quarter of an hour, he suddenly stood up and looked at Wu Daozi panting. "Now it's my turn, right?" Wu Daozi was shocked. After receiving such an attack, Yang Dingtian could still stand up. This is really crazy." Taking a deep breath, Wu Daozi stood motionless and said, "Okay, I will take Sect Master Yang's third attack, and also the last attack." All of the Wen duels were decided in 3 moves. Like Yang Dingtian and Wu Daozi's defense and breakthrough battle, it was even more so. After Yang Dingtian's 3 opportunities were used up, he had no chance to attack. It was the same for Wu Daozi. After 3 moves, if Yang Dingtian could still stand up and block the way, did not die, did not faint, and did not fall into the sea, then this battle was considered Yang Dingtian's victory. No matter how miserable Yang Dingtian's ending was, he won. Yang Dingtian's Wen duel had already reached the 3rd move. Wu Yuming and Queen Haixian's Wen duel still had not started, because the Wen duel was completely decided in 1 move. What should Yang Dingtian's 3rd move be? In fact, the 2nd move just now was already Yang Dingtian's fatal blow. It was to use the demonic spirit mist cloak, take advantage of Wu Daozi's immobility, and directly use a physical sword stab. Yang Dingtian succeeded in piercing Wu Daozi's heart, but it was useless. The other party had 2nd-grade evil spirit energy. No matter how fatal the injury was, it could be healed. Of course, Yang Dingtian could choose to cut off or split open Wu Daozi's head. In this way, Wu Daozi's soul might float out with the evil spirit. However, it was impossible to do this, because Yang Dingtian's physical attack using the demonic spirit mist cloak could only have 1 move, and he had to be in position before the demonic spirit flashed out. Because when he flashed in front of Wu Daozi, then cut off his neck or split open his head, it was already too late, because Wu Daozi's sword speed was even faster than Yang Dingtian's. At that time, not only would he not be able to cut off Wu Daozi's neck, but he would also be stabbed by his sword, directly crippling his combat strength. Because the demonic spirit mist cloak could only flash, he couldn't let the moves in his hands become faster than lightning. The 3rd move, what should Yang Dingtian do? This was Yang Dingtian's last chance. Therefore he must use his fatal move, Mystic Fire Lightning. This was Yang Dingtian's fatal move. Only 1/10 of Yang Dingtian's Mystic Fire Lightning was enough for a 9-star 9th grade Great Grandmaster to successfully break through to the half-saint realm. In other words, Yang Dingtian's Mystic Fire Lightning, when used to the extreme, could be compared to 100 times Devil Sky Split. What were the shortcomings of the Mystic Fire Lightning? It was slow to brew and fixed in position, because it was impossible for the enemy to stand still and let you hit him. But now it was possible. Because it was a battle of words, the other party had to be completely motionless. At this time, although Yang Dingtian used it to heal and released another Devil Sky Split, the remaining Mystic Chi was still more than 80%. Therefore, if the Mystic Fire Lightning was released to the extreme, it would still be nearly 100 times the power of the Devil Sky Split. On the surface, the first attack of the Devil Sky Split Lightning seemed to have some effect on Wu Daozi's body. But that was just an illusion. It was just a physical phenomenon. The moment the lightning struck Wu Daozi, it caused a reaction on the surface of his body. In fact, after these lightning entered his body, it directly disappeared in his mystic meridians and qi, and did not hurt him at all. Then, what would the result of this mystic fire lightning, which was a full 100 times the power, be? He did not know. But Yang Dingtian was full of infinite expectations. Huff! Yang Dingtian's left hand slowly floated out a million spirit demon fire of primal chaos attribute. Huff! Yang Dingtian's right hand slowly floated out a demon spirit demon fire of primal chaos attribute. Then, Yang Dingtian condensed all the mystic qi in his body to the extreme. That's right, he did not intend to leave any mystic qi. In other words, if his attack this time did not completely destroy Wu Daozi's combat power, then Yang Dingtian's entire body would be an empty fort, weak to the extreme, almost without any defense. In this way, if Wu Daozi's combat power was not destroyed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yang Dingtian could only wait for death. Seeing the two mystic fires in Yang Dingtian's left and right hands, Wu Daozi's face suddenly changed dramatically. Soon he also thought of the mystic fire lightning. Then his heart was incomparably shocked. The power of a 9-star 9th grade Grandmaster's mystic fire lightning was completely astonishing. It could be said that, at this time, the attack power of the mystic fire lightning released by Yang Dingtian might not be inferior to a half-saint. As for what level it would be, only God knew. Suddenly, Wu Daozi felt his heart tremble. Wind duel. No wonder Yang Dingtian wanted a wind duel. Mystic fire lightning could only be effective if the enemy was motionless. But so what? So what if it was a half-saint level lightning attack? Wu Daozi had a way to break it. Wu Daozi suddenly broke the broken sword in his hand, leaving only the jade sword hilt. Then, he held the jade sword hilt with both hands. The carved piece of jade floated between his palms. The mystic qi in Wu Daozi's hand was released. Puff! Suddenly, this jade sword hilt turned into ashes, and turned into countless dust. Then Wu Daozi's palm suddenly raised. Suddenly, this jade dust covered his whole body, instantly turning into a huge shield. This jade was almost completely insulated. So, not to mention that your mystic fire lightning was at the half-saint level. Even if it was at the saint level, it would be useless. The big lightning in front of the insulating shield was also useless. It couldn't pass through the insulating shield to attack Wu Daozi. Inside the insulating shield, Wu Daozi smiled coldly. You think I didn't consider your mystic fire lightning? Dream on. Yang Dingtian's fatal blow was about to have a flaw. His last blow failed, which meant that this one duel was a complete failure. However, Yang Dingtian still continued to pour mystic qi into the two mystic fires of the chaos attribute. In the end, all the mystic qi in his body was almost exhausted. The two mystic fires were dazzling to the extreme. One was so red that it almost dripped blood. The other was so blue that it was almost demonic. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian's palms suddenly waved gently. The two mystic fires of the chaos attribute condensed all of Yang Dingtian's mystic qi and flew toward Wu Daozi. Yang Dingtian's third move was officially launched. The two mystic fires flashed a brilliance and flew directly above Wu Daozi's head. However, they didn't collide directly, because once they collided, lightning would burst out. And the lightning couldn't penetrate this jade insulating shield, and would only avoid to the side. The two mystic fires slowly went down, and directly came to the surface of the insulating shield. Suddenly they turned into thousands of wisps, from two flames, into thousands of wisps of energy. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Thousands of wisps of mystic fire energy violently passed through the insulating shield made of jade powder. As the saying goes, you have a good plan, I have a wall ladder. You think I can't do anything when you make an insulating shield? Yes, the insulating shield can block lightning. However, no matter how small the gap between your jade powder is, it can't block the energy particles of my mystic fire. Therefore, Yang Dingtian controlled the two mystic fires of the chaos attribute, and suddenly scattered millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of wisps of energy. In an instant, the whole scene in the air became incomparably gorgeous. Two mystic fires, one red and one blue. They turned into hundreds of millions of wisps of energy, and violently drilled into the insulating shield. The speed was incomparably fast. Almost in a moment, the energy of the two mystic fires all entered the insulating shield. Suddenly, Wu Daozi was so shocked that his whole body trembled, and all the hair on his body stood up. His whole heart, his whole soul almost spasmed. No, no, no. Inside the insulating shield, the two mystic fires quickly returned to their original state. Then they violently collided. Boom! An unparalleled bolt of lightning suddenly burst out. Perhaps this was no longer a bolt of lightning. It was more like the light when a nuclear bomb exploded. It was almost hundreds or thousands of times brighter than the sun. At the same time, Queen Hai Exan felt that the moment of fatal blow had arrived. She suddenly turned into a bright brilliance, and under the cover of the mystic fire's lightning, quickly flew toward Wu Yuming. The lightning that was hundreds of times stronger than the devil sky split directly hit Wu Daozi. The unparalleled energy fiercely entered his body, his sea of qi. On the sea, a monstrous wave of hundreds of meters suddenly burst out. All the air in the surrounding 100 miles all emitted terrible electric sparks. Boom! Wu Daozi's body instantly turned into real charcoal, completely burning. Chapter 789. The lightning power of the two heaven and earth mystic fires was indeed unparalleled. Just as the half-step Saint Wu Daozi was burning fiercely, thousands of meters of seawater seemed to have been thrown into the sky. It was not a huge wave, but seawater with a diameter of thousands of meters. It surged into the air and became a huge water column hundreds of meters high. Then, the seawater suddenly exploded and turned into endless white gas. With a loud bang, the surrounding 100 miles were filled with white steam. After meeting the electric energy in the air, pa 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 pa, countless tiny lightning bolts filled the entire space. The scene was incomparably gorgeous. Wu Daozi's entire body was still burning, and his face could not be seen clearly at all. Sure enough, even a half-saint could not resist Yang Dingtian's heaven and earth mystic fire lightning. Chaos attribute. This was the heaven-defying ability that the heavens have bestowed upon Yang Dingtian. On the other side, Queen Hai Xian's body suddenly turned into a stream of light and became an extremely terrifying purple sea snake. Whoosh! In an instant, it directly penetrated Wu Yoming's body. It directly broke through Wu Yoming's defense and rushed into the illusion of the Forbidden Continent. And an incomparably huge hole appeared in Wu Yoming's chest and abdomen. He could be considered to have lost. In this battle, he was broken through by Queen Hai Xian. But Wu Yoming's face suddenly twitched. Then, another Wu Yoming's light shadow suddenly broke out of her body. Whoosh 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 whoosh. This Wu Yoming's light shadow stretched out in an instant. Like a demon's huge tentacles, it quickly wrapped around Queen Hai Xian who had rushed in. In an instant, Queen Hai Xian's snake body was completely entangled in the air, unable to move. Her purple sea snake body struggled frantically and bit crazily. It let out a series of roars that were almost deafening. The surface of the sea below was surging with waves. However, Wu Yoming's evil spirit doppelganger was still tightly entangled. Queen Hai Xian's snake body laughed coldly. Wu Yuming, your main body is heavily injured, and your evil spirit doppelganger is still fighting with me. Does your main body not want to live anymore? Once the evil spirit doppelganger left the body, it would no longer be able to protect the body from death or injury. At this time, Wu Yoming's chest had a huge hole drilled out. He should have used the evil spirit energy to immediately restore his body. However, in order to stop Queen Hai Xian, his evil spirit doppelganger left his body and entangled Hai Xian. In this way, his main body would really be in danger at any time. Once his main body died, he would only be left with his soul and evil spirit energy. His body, which had been cultivated to the semi-sage realm with great difficulty, would be crippled. Moreover, it was almost impossible for him to find another half-saint's body to possess. Let me pass. Queen Hai Xian said coldly. This battle has nothing to do with you. It's a matter between me and Yang Dingtian. Wu Yuming said. My sister Ling Wu is inside. Queen Hai Xian said. Then I can let her go. I won't touch her. Wu Yuming said. No. I said I'll stop you, so I'll stop you. You're crazy. You don't want to live anymore. Hai Xian said sternly. Yes, I don't want to live anymore. I can't find the meaning of living in the first place. Wu Yuming said with a smile. His evil spirit doppelganger was still entangling Hai Xian crazily. The vitality of his main body was rapidly draining away. Hai Xian gnashed her teeth in hatred. At this time, Yang Dingtian's body was almost empty. The flames on his body had been extinguished. His entire body was left with charcoal. No, it wasn't just charcoal. At this time, his entire body was incomparably strange. There was also his energy sea. At his lower abdomen, there was a resplendent ball of light swimming around. This was his energy sea. There were also his profound veins. Within his charcoal body, dense profound veins covered his entire body. Countless energies were circulating inside. There was also his brain. The green evil spirit doppelganger completely enveloped his entire brain. Countless energies were still circulating inside. There was also his heart. Lastly, his eyes. Within his charcoal body, his 2 eyes were still intact. However, they were emitting a lush green light. His entire heart was completely the color of the evil spirit energy. Yang Dingtian finally understood. After the evil spirit entered the body, it directly entered the energy sea. Then it used the profound veins to connect the heart and brain, protecting them. Therefore, even if the body suffered an absolutely destructive blow, it would still protect the heart, energy sea, profound veins, and brain. After that, Yang Dingtian saw an incomparably strange scene. Wu Daozi's charcoal body shook vigorously. Immediately, all the charcoal body on his body shattered, fell, and was blown away by the wind. All that was left was a strange body wrapped in evil spirit energy. This body was densely packed with profound veins, as well as the energy sea in the middle. There was also a beating green heart, a complete brain, and 2 lush green eyes. Immediately after, the bones and flesh were completely visible to the naked eye, rapidly spreading and growing. After only a quarter of an hour, a complete body, a brand new body, directly appeared in front of Yang Dingtian. An intact Wu Daozi appeared in front of Yang Dingtian. When Queen Hai Xian saw this, she immediately revealed a stunned expression. Then, looking at the incomparably determined Wu Yuming, she finally gave up. Wu Yuming was the 5th person of the Temple of Annihilation. If it was not a last resort, she really did not want him to die and incur hatred. If Wu Daozi did not die, this battle would not end, and there would be no need to force Wu Yuming to retreat. Wu Yuming, you lunatic, you have also been brainwashed by Yang Dingtian. Queen Hai Xian sneered, and then suddenly bounced back, returning to the distance, and once again transformed into the peerless and devastatingly beautiful human Hai Xian. Wu Yuming's evil spirit doppelganger quickly rushed into his main body. Then, the huge hole in his chest and abdomen began to gradually recover. His main body also began to gradually recover its vitality. Wu Yuming glanced at Yang Dingtian, and then looked at the intact Wu Daozi. At this time, Yang Dingtian was completely gone, and there was almost no profound energy left. You take care of yourself, Wu Yuming said to Yang Dingtian, then sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and ignored him. His battle with Wu Yuming was over. He had used his willpower to force the Queen of the Sea Heart to retreat. And Yang Dingtian's battle was not over yet. Wu Daozi looked at Yang Dingtian and said slowly, Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, you made me overdraft a huge amount of my evil spirit energy. This battle really made me pay an unimaginable price. Yang Dingtian continued to close his eyes and did not speak. Wu Daozi continued, Your strength is really hard to believe. If not for my evil spirit energy, that blow just now would have directly turned me into ashes. A 9-star 9th grade grandmaster can actually destroy a half-saint. It's really shocking. Yang Dingtian continued to ignore him. However, Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, our battle is not over yet. Wu Daozi said, Your 3 moves have already been used up, and I still have one last move. If I'm not wrong, there is almost no profound energy left in your body. Your mystic fire lightning just now has already exhausted all your energy. Isn't that so? Yang Dingtian sat cross-legged on the ground, closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. Wu Daozi said, According to the rules of the Wind battle, you can't recover your profound energy. And according to the rules of the Wind battle, each move is stronger than the last. So if you let me use my third move, it will be half saint level energy. At this time, you, who don't have any profound energy, if you are attacked by my half saint level energy, what will the result be? You should be very clear in your heart that it will be completely turned into ashes, a true death without an intact corpse. Taking a deep breath, Wu Daozi said, "That's right, you have a no-kill order. Because you are of great significance to the Fox Demon clan and the Snakeman clan. But now that things have come to this, it's impossible to make me compromise and shrink back. Then the choice is yours. Yang Dingtian, you either compromise or die." Then, Wu Daozi looked at Queen Hai Xian. Because Yang Dingtian's existence was directly related to the Snakeman clan's highest interests. Queen Hai Xian looked at Yang Dingtian. "Your Excellency Wu Daozi, it's up to you. Because if Yang Dingtian would rather die than compromise on such a small matter, then my Snakeman clan will never be able to count on him to compromise. Then it doesn't matter if he dies. At worst, my Snakeman empire will not be passed down. I will still be awe-inspiring for thousands of years." Wu Daozi said, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, did you hear that? At this time, you either die or compromise. For a mere spirit rabbit, is it worth it? She is like a treasure to me, but to you, she is just an ordinary girl. Compromise back down." Queen Hai Xian looked at Yang Dingtian's face and said with a complicated expression, Okay, Yang Dingtian, I will take half a step back. As long as you compromise with me, I will not force you to hand over Dugu Aoshuang, okay?" Yang Dingtian sat cross-legged and floated in the air. There was really no profound qi in his body, not even a little bit. And Wu Daozi's next attack was a half-step saint-level attack. Previously, Yang Dingtian's profound qi was full, but he could not block Wu Daozi's energy attack that was infinitely close to the half-step saint level, and he almost lost half his life. Moreover, Yang Dingtian did not have any profound qi in his body now. How could he block the other party's half-step saint-level attack? The only result was that he would turn into ashes and be smashed to pieces. But Yang Dingtian had already said that this battle was more of a contest of will. It was completely a fight to the death. He used his will to not hesitate to die to force Hai Xian and Wu Daozi to compromise. Therefore, at this time, it was impossible to make him compromise. At the critical moment, Yang Dingtian had never compromised. At this time, Wu Daozi was caught in a difficult choice. Of course, he was not willing to back down like this. It was too cowardly. However, Yang Dingtian's attitude of not hesitating to die really made him helpless. The Demon King really had a no-kill order for Yang Dingtian. He, Wu Daozi, naturally did not dare to stop it. And now, Yang Dingtian was a scarecrow. A simple attack would shatter his body and kill him. Therefore he could enter but he could not. Retreat, he could not retreat. Suddenly, he was completely at his wit's end. Just as Wu Daozi was gnashing his teeth, a beautiful figure suddenly floated over from afar. It was Princess Mudan, and there was another person behind her. Joyous Palace's young master, Guda Wuhuan and Lung Ao. It turned out that he had become Mudan's third second-grade evil spirit bearer. Guda Wuhuan's cultivation was higher than Lung Ao's. Before accepting the second-grade evil spirit, he was already a 5-star grandmaster. Therefore, after accepting the second-grade evil spirit, he had directly broken through to become a 2-star 8th-grade grandmaster. In the blink of an eye, Mudan had arrived at the battlefield. She looked at Yang Dingtian, who was bathed in blood, and her heart suddenly twitched. That's right, Dongfang Bingling's soul had begun to fight back. Immediately after, Dongfang Bingling's will began to struggle frantically, desperately trying to break through the suppression of the first-grade evil spirit. Instantly, the expression on Mudan's beautiful face kept changing. Wu Daozi bowed and went forward to report the battle situation to Princess Mudan. Then he said, "At this time, Yang Dingtian is already very weak, but he relied on the Demon King's no-kill order to take a gamble. If I make a third move, he will die. If I don't make a move, it means that I have compromised and fallen into his trap. Then, Your Highness, should I make a move or retreat?" Good Wu Huan sneered. Senior Wu Daozi, you can retreat. Let me deal with him. Wu Daozi glanced at Good Wu Huan indifferently. What does this have to do with you? With your status, do you have the qualifications to participate? At this time, Dongfang Binglingswu was struggling more and more fiercely. Princess Mu Dan's eyes were getting colder and colder. Then she said word by word. Since he is not retreating, attack with all your strength. Wu Daozi said. But that will kill him. If he dies, then he dies, Mu Dan said coldly. If he dies, it means that the will of the god of chaos is bullshit. When these words came out, Queen Hai Xian's expression changed. Dongfang Bingling's soul, which was inside Mu Dan's body, almost began to tremble. Don't kill him, don't kill him. Dongfang Binglingswu was constantly shouting. Of course, only Mu Dan could hear it. If he dies, you might be able to break free. Mu Dan sneered in her heart. Moreover, your pleading makes me very satisfied. You are so proud, you have never begged anyone. Bingling's soul that was suppressed said. Then I beg you now, don't kill him, you can't kill him. Princess Mu Dan laughed. You said that if he is attacked by the half-step saint energy, he will die immediately. If I bestow him a second great evil spirit, let him revive, and let him break through to half-step saint, do you think he will agree? No, you can't do that. Bingling said. Anyone can be contaminated by the evil spirit, but he definitely can't. Princess Mu Dan gently felt her evil spirit tree, gently combing the remaining 2 branches. Her face revealed a mischievous sneer. Go do it. Princess Mu Dan said. Yes. Wu Daozi bowed. Then, he slowly walked towards Yang Dingtian and said, Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, this is a half-step saint-level attack. You either die or compromise. This is your last chance. Yang Dingtian slowly opened his eyes and said, You, either do it or get lost. Wu Daozi's face changed. You asked for it. Chapter 790. Wu Daozi's chi energy was condensing. The half-saint level energy was completely condensed in the palm of his hand. Although it seemed that there was no change in his palm, a terrible sense of oppression could be felt. Immediately afterward, the air around Wu Daozi, as if unable to bear the great pressure, began to explode. At this time, within dozens of meters around Wu Daozi, even the air seemed to be unable to stay, completely turning into a vacuum. Then the sea below was also under great pressure. The sea, which had just been calm, began to boil. The whole sea seemed to be boiling, and the water kept rolling. In the sky above, black clouds began to condense quickly, soon blocking the light of the sun. The battlefield where Wu Daozi was suddenly dark, as if it was going to be dark in an instant. It condensed to the extreme. This was the half-saint level energy. When it was about to attack, even the surrounding environment would change color. This was because there were no creatures around. Otherwise, all the animals within dozens of miles would have fled frantically. Wu Daozi finally looked at Mu Dan, and finally at Yang Dingtian. Compromise or court death? Wu Daozi said coldly. If it was a psychological battle, then now was the last chance. Whether it was to compromise or to resist to the end, this was the last chance. Next, perhaps it was not acting, nor was it a psychological battle. Wu Daozi had been forced to the edge of the cliff. And with Mu Dan's approval, he probably couldn't wait to kill Yang Dingtian. Either attack or get out. Yang Dingtian said coldly. You court death, I'll fulfill your wish. Wu Daozi shouted. Boom! His palms abruptly shot out. Suddenly, the earth-shattering power suddenly blasted toward Yang Dingtian. The dark clouds tens of thousands of meters above were suddenly torn from the middle. The sea below was also suddenly torn from the middle, creating a vacuum crack. This was the half-saint level energy, completely the power to split mountains and overturn seas. If any grade 9 martial grandmaster were to come into contact with this power, they would be reduced to ashes in an instant. They wouldn't even be smashed into pieces. The shockingly powerful half-saint energy flew over 10,000 meters in an instant. It was like a giant missile that had smashed into Yang Dingtian. This level of attack was really like a missile attacking a sailboat floating on the sea. Boom! Suddenly, an endless amount of energy, which was more than 10 times what Yang Dingtian's body could withstand, was injected into Yang Dingtian's body. Everyone shuddered violently as they waited to see the scene of Yang Dingtian turning into ashes. As for Mu Dan, she only felt her body suffocate. Dongfang Bingling, who was inside her body, crazily released an aura of despair. She actually had a strong desire to destroy this body alive. She crazily wanted to perish together with Mu Dan. Thus, in an instant, Mu Dan's entire body was imprisoned. Facing Yang Dingtian, who was about to turn into ashes, she could do nothing. Then, everyone waited in horror, waiting for the half-saint level energy to explode in Yang Dingtian's body and completely destroy this body. After the endless amount of energy, which was more than 10 times more than what Yang Dingtian had, all entered his body. Yang Dingtian only felt his vision suddenly turn white, and his whole body was completely lost and empty. Then, he was about to be smashed to pieces and turned into ashes in an instant. No matter how strong his Xian meridians were, or how powerful his sea of qi was, they couldn't withstand such an amazing amount of energy. However, at this moment, the dark green Xian fire dragon, which had been hibernating in the depths of his sea of qi, suddenly drilled out from the abyss, stretched out countless tentacles, and was about to devour the half-saint level energy that was about to destroy Yang Dingtian. Almost in an instant, the half-saint level energy was completely devoured, leaving not a single bit behind. Of course, the dark green Xian fire dragon had no interest in this kind of Xian qi energy. It suddenly stretched out its tentacles to the countless exits of Yang Dingtian's Xian meridians and released all of them. Boom! All the half-saint level energy of Wu Daozi's attack was released into the air. Suddenly, it was like the explosion of a small nuclear bomb. All the air within a radius of dozens of miles was heated into flames in an instant. Everything was burning crazily. The thousands of meters around Yang Dingtian were instantly filled with terrible flames. The bottom of the sea below suddenly exploded into an incomparably deep hole. Just like last time when it swallowed the huge dark crystal, Yang Dingtian couldn't withstand the huge energy reaction, so it chose to release it on the 1,000 miles of ice and snow. The 1,000 miles of ice and snow melted into boiling water, and then solidified into ice again. Back and forth, an astronomical amount of energy was released. After releasing all the energy, the dark green Xian fire dragon once again hibernated in the depths of his sea of qi. This was its characteristic. If Yang Dingtian died, it would also die. Therefore, unless Yang Dingtian was in danger of being turned into ashes, it would absolutely not make a move. Of course, if there was something delicious, such as the dark crystal, or the energy of some heaven and earth Xian fire, it would also make a move. Otherwise, it would forever hibernate in the depths of his sea of qi. Last time in the Silver Palace, when an expert Fox Clan assassin wanted to destroy his sea of qi, it did the same. Seeing that Yang Dingtian's sea of qi was about to be completely destroyed, the dark green Xian fire dragon immediately made a move and swallowed all the energy cleanly. However, at that time, it could completely devour that energy and turn it into nothingness. At this time, this half-saint level energy was too strong, and it couldn't turn it into nothingness, so it directly released it into the air. Mu Dan looked at all this in horror. Yang Dingtian's body suddenly exploded, and the air within a few thousand meters instantly turned into a huge fireball. He must have been turned into ashes. However, in that instant, Dongfang Bingling's soul attack, which had completely perished together with her, caused her body to be imprisoned. Then, she could only watch as Yang Dingtian died. She was in big trouble, and the Demon King had a no-kill order for her. She knew in her heart that she shouldn't take the risk, but she couldn't help it, especially when she saw Dongfang Bingling's terrified and nervous look. She just couldn't help but put Yang Dingtian in the jaws of death. She just couldn't help but go crazy, and Queen Hai Xian's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Sad? Not really, maybe a little, because the Naga clan had completely lost the opportunity to transform into a demigod. But there was also a feeling of satisfaction. Yang Dingtian's hostility towards her made her very angry, but she couldn't kill him. Now that she saw him die, it was really over. Anyway, it wouldn't be a big problem for her to break through to the saint level in her lifetime. Moreover, Only her descendants could become a demigod, but she couldn't become a demigod. Whether Yang Dingtian died or not, whether she gave birth to a demigod descendant or not, Queen Hyexan would still be able to command the world for the rest of her life. As for the future of the Naga clan, to put it bluntly, after she died, she didn't care about the flood. Therefore, Yang Dingtian's death might be a relief. However, after all the light and flames dissipated, Yang Dingtian was still safe and sound, sitting cross-legged and floating in the air. His whole body didn't even have any reaction, and even his posture didn't change. Not to mention that he didn't shatter into pieces. Even a strand of his hair wasn't hurt. Although the clothes on his body were stained with blood, there were no signs of it being burnt. In short, he was completely unharmed. Princess Mudan was completely stunned. What was going on? Yang Dingtian was safe and sound from the energy attack of a demigod. That's right. It sounded like the demigod was only one step away from a 9-star 9th grade martial grandmaster. But in fact, it was a world of difference. This was because there were many energy levels above a 9-star 9th grade martial grandmaster. However, these energy levels couldn't be shown on one's cultivation level. They were all accumulating, and when enough was accumulated, it would explode and break through to the demigod level. Therefore, there was a world of difference between a martial grandmaster and a 9-star 9th grade martial grandmaster. There was also a world of difference between a demigod and a 9-star 9th grade martial grandmaster. The further one progressed, the greater the gap between each level. Under such a terrifying energy attack, Yang Dingtian was actually safe and sound. How could this be? Could it be that God's spokesperson was really destined to be undefeated, undying, and indestructible? Impossible. God only chose Yang Dingtian. He couldn't control Yang Dingtian. Suddenly, Princess Mudan felt a sense of powerlessness for the first time. It was like this almost every time. At the critical moment, Yang Dingtian was always undefeated, undying and indestructible. Then, did that mean that the great cause of His Majesty the Demon King and the evil ways would eventually fail? No, impossible. His Majesty the Demon King, His Majesty the Devil Queen, was more than 100 times stronger than Yang Dingtian. It would be easy for him to kill Yang Dingtian, if he wanted to. Queen Hyexan was also stunned when she saw that Yang Dingtian was still alive. She still had mixed feelings. She didn't know if she should be glad that Yang Dingtian was still alive or angry that he was still alive. However, not dying under the energy attack of a demigod was also a huge shock to Queen Hyexan. Although Wu Daozi's cultivation was far inferior to Hyexan's. But if Wu Daozi couldn't kill Yang Dingtian, then could Hyexan kill him? Of course Hyexan could kill him. In fact, as long as a demigod powerhouse used physical attacks, swords and palms, the black-green mystic fire dragon would be helpless. No matter how strong it was, it could only devour energy, and not physical swords. As long as Queen Hyexan attacked Wu Yuming just now, directly penetrating his body with her snake body, Yang Dingtian would be dead for sure. However, the scene just now was too scary. The explosion caused by the demigod energy had filled the space of thousands of meters with flames, but he was still safe and sound. Yang Dingtian looked at Wu Daozi and said coldly, "The 3 moves are over. Get lost." Wu Daozi's face twitched. That's right, the 3 moves were over. He had lost. There was only one thought in his mind when he saw that Yang Dingtian was unharmed. Impossible, it was definitely impossible. He looked at Princess Mudan, and then looked at Queen Hyexan. It must be one of the 2 women who saved him, because they would never let Yang Dingtian die. But no matter what, Yang Dingtian had won. Admirable, admirable. I lost. Wu Daozi looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time and then bowed. Farewell. Queen Hyexan looked at Yang Dingtian, and opened her mouth, but she didn't say anything in the end. She disappeared into the air and left. Good Wuhuan looked at Mudan and said, "Your Highness, it was Hyexan who saved Yang Dingtian. Don't be deceived. He can't even withstand a single blow. Let me make a move and I guarantee I'll tear his skin off. Whether he lives or dies, it's up to you." Among the people present, only 3 of them knew that Yang Dingtian hadn't been rescued by anyone. The energy attack of a half-step saint didn't harm him at all. Hai Xian Mu Dan and Yu Ming, the remaining Wu Daozi, Lung Ao, and Guda Wuhuan all felt that either Hai Xian or Mu Dan made a move. In short, someone saved young Dingtian at the last moment. Mu Dan naturally wouldn't explain this. She glanced at Guda Wuhuan and called him an idiot in her heart. You want to fight with young Dingtian? What qualifications do you have? Who do you think you are? She nodded at young Dingtian and said, Your Excellency young Dingtian, farewell. Goodbye, young Dingtian said. One day, I will destroy you and save my wife from your energy prison. Mu Dan said with a smile. Then I'll be looking forward to it. Afterwards, the peony gently floated away. Lung Ao also left expressionlessly. Guda Wuhuan was filled with fear. He stared coldly at young Dingtian, and also left. Suddenly, only young Dingtian and Wu Yuming were left at the entrance of the Forbidden Continent's sea region. Chapter 791. The two of them sat cross-legged in the air, meditating and recuperating, not saying a word. Young Dingtian didn't take the holy water pill. Instead, he took out the pill from the Little Western Paradise's Demon Fox clan and swallowed it. Then he began to breathe and recover his Xian Qi. The injuries on his body looked very frightening, but as long as he recovered his Xian Qi, he would recover very quickly. After a full day and night, young Dingtian opened his eyes. At this time, all his Xian Qi had recovered. You really are the spokesperson chosen by God, Wu Yuming suddenly said. This was the first time he took the initiative to speak. Young Dingtian smiled and said, Brother Wu, are you still looking for the so-called meaning of life? Wu Yuming nodded and said, But it seems that I won't be able to find it. Young Dingtian said, Your Demon King's mission is to challenge fate, to challenge the god of chaos. It's very noble and righteous. Aren't you moved by this mission? Wu Yuming said, In the past countless years, I've been fighting for this mission. As the spokesperson of God, you are my destiny. Defeating you is the same as defeating my so-called destiny. However, I failed. When you were much weaker than me, I still failed. So for me, challenging fate is already a failure. After saying that, Wu Yuming spread his hands. Young Dingtian said, Then what about challenging the god of chaos? Wu Yuming said, It's nothing more than perishing together and destroying the world. It's too difficult to ignite my passion and fighting spirit with just this matter alone. Young Dingtian said, Then you can continue to do nothing. Wu Yuming said, Then as your greatest enemy, do you have any suggestions? Young Dingtian said, Pity the people of the world. Wu Yuming thought for a while and shook his head. Sorry, I can't do it. I really can't care about the fate of the people of the world. Young Dingtian, That's right. You've always been high and mighty, while I was born a commoner. That's why I care about the fate of the world. However, Brother Netherworld, Ling Wu is also one of the people of this world. In the past, she was also an ordinary woman. Even though she was somewhat beautiful, she was still an ordinary woman in the end. But now, she has become the most important person to you. Wu Yuming fell silent. Young Dingtian was right. Young Dingtian said, So, as long as you're immersed in it, you'll gradually develop feelings and pity. We often scold a person, saying that in our heart, you are not even comparable to a pig or a dog. However, a woman who had raised a pig for an entire year would be very sad when it was time to kill it during the new year. She did not dare to look at it. As for dogs, it's even more so. The more I raise them, the more I treat them like family. Then young Dingtian said, Therefore, Brother Netherworld, you were born isolated from the rest of the world. You were arrogant and proud, and you only fought for one goal in your life. After this goal is over, you naturally can't find the meaning of life. In that case, my suggestion to you is to live the life of an ordinary person. Of course, it might be very difficult for you to live the life of an ordinary person. In that case, you can try your best to observe the life of an ordinary person. Yes, thank you for your suggestion. Wu Yuming did not know why, but she completely lost the interest to talk and slowly closed her eyes. Young Dingtian stood up and flew towards the depths of the Taboo Continent's sea region. After flying for 1,000 miles, young Dingtian directly entered the illusory realm of the taboo continent. After that, he used the fastest time to leave the illusory realm and entered the main hall of the skull. Everything was still normal in the main hall of the skull. However, the dozens of people had all lost weight, including Wu Maji. The only one who did not lose weight was Dishi Bian. It had already been more than half a month since they started cultivating in the second world's magma continent. If nothing unexpected happened, they still needed to walk for another half a month or so. In reality, they needed to cultivate bitterly for a month. However, in the illusory realm, it was close to a year. Although it was an illusory realm, it was exactly the same as reality. Therefore, it was definitely real bitterly cultivating. Therefore, everyone's face was filled with fatigue and almost numbness. It was as profound as a painting. Even the cunning Wu Maji had a pained expression on her beautiful face. This kind of endless bitterly cultivating was the most torturous. Yang Dingtian stayed in the main hall of the skull for half a day. Seeing that everything was normal, he directly left the main hall. About half a month later, Dishi Bian and Wu Maji had passed the second world's bitterly cultivating before he returned. This was because when Yang Dingtian saw Wu Daozi leaving, he was still filled with unwillingness. Yang Dingtian was afraid that after he returned to the human countries, he would continue to cause trouble and force Yang Dingtian to compromise. Yang Dingtian could see that this Wu Daozi was ruthless and stubborn. He was a very difficult person to deal with. Using the flying mystic technique and the demonic spirit mist cloak's flash, Yang Dingtian returned to the West capital after 1 day and 1 night. Nothing had happened. Everything was normal. Qin Mengli said that after Wu Daozi left that time, he did not come to look for the spirit rabbit again. Yang Dingtian was slightly relieved. After staying in the West capital for another day and still nothing happened, he returned to the Zhong capital to deal with numerous affairs. After all, the reorganization of the Zhong continent had completely entered the most substantial stage. Just as he returned to the Zhong capital, Yun Zhenu gave Yang Dingtian a piece of good news. It was a top-secret information sent by the Secret Resource Department. The password was only understood by Yang Dingtian. The report said that when they were prospecting in the southernmost continent, they encountered a forbidden area. The guide of the Ning clan in the South Sea said that there was a huge volcano that could destroy all life. No one dared to go there. Just a few years ago, the volcano had erupted violently and destroyed a small town a few hundred miles away. However, when the warlocks in the resource department heard this news, they were instantly filled with anticipation. Because the fire elemental energy in this volcano was incomparably huge, there was a possibility of bloody black gold appearing. Once there was bloody black gold, there would definitely be accompanying crystals. Hence the prospecting team, which consisted of more than 10 martial revered, more than 100 martial xian, and a few thousand ordinary martial artists, decided to risk their lives and enter the volcano to conduct research. In the end, when they reached the volcano, not only was it not scalding hot, but it was bone-piercing cold. The entire huge volcano was already a huge lake. Moreover, in the lake, there was an astronomical amount of unfreezing water. Instantly, the prospecting team was wild with joy. If there was unfreezing water, it meant that there was a high possibility of bloody black gold, which also meant that there were accompanying crystals. Hence, the prospecting team immediately sealed off the entire volcano. Then, they sent more than 10 people to pass this information to the Zhong capital on the Demon Eagle. Yesterday, this information reached Yun Zhenu's hands. If Yang Dingtian did not return within 3 days, Yun Zhenu would have to pass this information to the highest commander, Qin Wanqiu. Then, the members of the prospecting team would have to disclose the password of this information. However, now that Yang Dingtian was back, he had to give the order. At this point, the entire southernmost land belonged to the Council of Light's territory. Yang Dingtian and Wu Maji's son had become the next clan leader of the Ning tribe. The Ning tribe of the Southern Sea had also become a member of the Council of Light. However, Yang Dingtian did not allow them to join the list of the 3 sects, 9 clans, and 27 factions of the Tiando League. Wu Maji had also temporarily become the highest commander of the defense area of the extreme disaster land. However, she was not there for a long time. Hence, after the southwest mainland had been stabilized, the Council of Light Command Department transferred Duan Rian to the southernmost mainland to be the highest commander of the defense area. As the southernmost mainland was too far away, it was difficult for a large-scale army to enter. After 2 years, the Council of Light used the Demon Eagle to transport less than 50,000 soldiers into the extreme disaster land. The remaining 100,000 soldiers were all selected from the Ning tribe and the desert tribes. In the end, a frontline army of 300,000 soldiers was built in the southernmost region. The headquarters was not built in Ning City. It was too luxurious and not suitable for the Council of Light's defense area. Instead, a new city was built in an oasis. After 2 years of construction, the city had already taken shape. There was even a large navy in this defense area. Of course, it was built on the foundation of the Ning tribe's original navy. Among all the regions, the southernmost region was the smoothest. The people here did not even know what resistance was. After thousands of years of submission to the Ning tribe, they obeyed all orders. Even when the Ning tribe's people were almost extinct, they still paid tribute to the Ning tribe every month. It was the same for the Ning tribe's servants and elders. After all, the high-level warriors and elders who had been transformed by Ning Wuming had all died. The entire Ning tribe was left with the loyal retainers. After Ning Wuming's death, they were instinctively loyal to Wu Maji. In fact, they were originally more loyal to Wu Maji than to Ning Wuming. Because when Ning Yi was not around, the chief's wife was the highest, and Ning Wuming was only the chief's younger brother. Therefore, with Wu Maji's cooperation, the reorganization of the southernmost region was very smooth. On the contrary, Wu Maji's family, the Snow tribe, rejected Yang Dingtian's invitation again and again. They did not join the Council of Light, and were willing to appear as half-allies. Therefore, the southernmost region had become the source of all the daily necessities of the Snow tribe. In exchange, the Snow tribe would provide a large amount of precious ice crystals, ice ores, and so on. After receiving this information, Yang Dingtian was very excited. The bloody black gold accompanying crystal had become the Council of Light's #1 strategic resource, because it could not only increase the power of explosives, but it was also the most important source of power for missiles. Even the Warlock group put it on torpedoes, and even in some crystal power reaction arrays. In short, many crystal energy arrays, and any crystal reactor would have its power and effect increased by a lot as long as the bloody black gold accompanying crystal was added. Therefore, the bloody black gold accompanying crystal that no one wanted had become more precious than the 10,000-year-old bloody black gold. However, the bloody black gold accompanying crystal was too rare. The Council of Light had deployed almost 100,000 people to search for the bloody black gold accompanying crystal. But now, the monthly production had only increased from 30 kilograms to 50 kilograms. Almost a year had passed, and the Council of Light had only excavated less than 600 kilograms of bloody black gold accompanying crystal. Moreover, they had used 200 kilograms on various research. The remaining 400 kilograms were not enough for a big battle. From the intelligence reports, the amount of unfreezing water in the southernmost region's volcano was several times more than the magical silver mine that Yang Dingtian had discovered. Therefore, perhaps there was a huge bloody black gold accompanying crystal inside, which meant that there was a considerable amount of bloody black gold accompanying crystal. This matter was too important. He had to send a great grandmaster to guard it and excavate all the bloody black gold and bloody black gold accompanying crystal in the shortest time possible. Then, Yang Dingtian began to think about who to send. In the end, he found that none of the great grandmasters who stayed behind could leave. Everyone had practical tasks. The only person who was relatively free was Yang Dingtian himself. After a while, Yang Dingtian decided to go by himself. He had to get all the bloody black gold and bloody black gold accompanying crystal in the shortest time possible. Before leaving, Yang Dingtian gave an order. In the end, the name of this special crystal was changed again. It was directly changed to X crystal, indicating that he attached great importance to this strategic material. After notifying Qin Wanshou, the commander-in-chief who stayed behind, Yang Dingtian rode on a demon eagle alone and flew toward the southernmost region. After flying for more than 60 to 70,000 miles, Yang Dingtian arrived at the desert in the southernmost region after 3 days and 3 nights. When he arrived at the foot of the huge volcano, it had become a huge military camp. Tens of thousands of troops were guarding here. All the entrances and exits were tightly surrounded. This was really an incomparably huge volcano. The bottom of the mountain spanned hundreds of miles. Duan Ruyan was already personally overseeing it. Because Wu Maji had gone to the taboo continent to cultivate, she had to stay here. Sect Master, everything is ready, Duan Ruyan said. The special crystal pipes and the special huge barrels to hold the unfreezing water are all ready. Once the order is given, all the unfreezing water in the crater will flow out. Yang Dingtian and Duan Ruyan flew directly to the crater of the volcano. At this time, there were hundreds of people around the crater of the volcano. All the work was in order. There were 3 crystal pipes that could withstand ultra-low temperatures, and countless huge special wooden barrels. The interior of these wooden barrels was covered with a layer of special energy crystals that could withstand the terrible low temperature of the unfreezing water. The entire crater of the volcano was about a few hundred meters in diameter. After flying around the crater of the volcano a few times, they landed and reached out to touch the unfreezing water at the top. It was about -60 to 70 degrees Celsius. This was only the temperature at the top. Then it could be concluded. The energy level of this lake of unfreezing water was more than 10 times that of Yang Dingtian's in the demonic silver mine. In the demonic silver mine that Yang Dingtian discovered, there were 999 pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold and 1,200 kilograms of accompanying crystals. How many X crystals would there be under the volcano this time? It was totally worth looking forward to. Release the unfreezing water, Yang Dingtian ordered. Immediately, the long special crystal pipes at the crater of the volcano were inserted into the unfreezing water. Because of the drop, an endless amount of unfreezing water flowed out of the crater of the volcano and poured into huge special wooden barrels. After filling them up, they were completely sealed. Then, huge winged cavalry warriors directly transported these barrels to the military camp at the foot of the mountain. In this way, they were transported over and over again. In each huge barrel, there were more than 1,000 kilograms. From morning to night, and then to the next morning, thousands of people were busy for a day and a night before the unfreezing water in the crater of the volcano was completely drained. In total, tens of thousands of barrels of unfreezing water were transported out. It was about 20 to 30,000 tons of unfreezing water, which was nearly 20 times the volume of the demonic silver mine. However, the overall temperature of the unfreezing water here was lower, so the energy level was more than 40 to 50 times that of the demonic silver mine. After all the unfreezing water was drained, it was time to explore the mine. Then the exploration team prepared ropes and was about to go deep into the huge cave. Every time they explored the huge cave, it was more dangerous because there was likely to be a Lord of the Abyss inside. It was a powerful monster. The denser the energy in the place, the more likely it was that a Lord of the Abyss would appear. In the demonic silver mine, a 1,000-year-old monster-level Lord of the Abyss appeared. The energy level of this volcano cave was not a few dozen times higher than that of the demonic silver mine, but a full 40 to 50 times higher. Therefore, if there was a Lord of the Abyss, only God knew how powerful it would be. Of course, only God knew what huge treasures were down there. Yang Dingtian said, "Your cultivation is too weak. I'll go down and explore." Duan Ruyan's face suddenly changed and said, "Sect Master, you are responsible for the safety of hundreds of millions of people. You can't take the risk. I'll go." Yang Dingtian said resolutely, "I can even tame the ancient giant beast Xiao Xiao. I'm not afraid of any monster in the world, no matter how strong it is. So I'll go. It's settled. I'll go with you," Duan Ruyan said. "No, you stay up there and guard," Yang Dingtian said. Then, he directly flew into the bottomless volcano cave. Chapter 792. After Yang Dingtian flew into the deep cave, he released the million-spirit demon fire and countless resentful spirits, and began to explore everything in the cave. If there was an incomparably powerful abyss lord, then these resentful spirits would definitely have a huge fluctuation. Countless resentful spirits went deep and deep, but it was very calm, and there was no fluctuation. Could it be that there was no abyss lord in this place? Yang Dingtian slowly flew down. When he went down 200 meters, Yang Dingtian saw a thick layer of ice. The entire unfreezing pool just now was floating on top of this. Yang Dingtian easily broke this thick layer of ice, and then there was a bottomless abyss below. 300 meters down, 500 meters, 800 meters, 3,000 meters, 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters. This cave was really deep. Moreover, the deeper he went, the bigger it became. In the end, the cave was completely boundless, and it was almost dozens of square kilometers. The entire mountain here, because of the volcanic magma eruption all year round, hollowed out a huge abyss in the belly of the mountain. Yang Dingtian continued to go deeper. Finally, more than 20,000 meters, 30,000 meters. There was no longer any air here, and there was no light. However, Yang Dingtian did not need to use his eyes to see. He only needed to use his divine sense to sense. Bang! Suddenly, Yang Dingtian reached the end of the abyss. At this time, it was already more than 40,000 meters down. At this time he could not even see his 5 fingers. Yang Dingtian summoned the million-spirit demon fire, and instantly tore through the darkness. Swish! A bright light instantly blinded Yang Dingtian's eyes. He had clearly only summoned a small flame to illuminate. It should not be so bright. In fact, the entire cave suddenly lit up, as if it was daytime, almost making Yang Dingtian unable to see for a moment. However, Yang Dingtian quickly recovered his power, and then he was completely stunned. This is the Dragon King's crystal palace? Yang Dingtian knew why it was so bright, because there were crystals everywhere, gems everywhere, and they were all precious ores. In fact, Yang Dingtian did not even step on a single inch of soil or stone. There was not a single rock around the cave. What entered his eyes were endless crystals and gems. When Yang Dingtian's profound fire lit up, the countless gems and crystals inside instantly reflected countless rays of light. As a result, the entire cave was so bright that it was blinding. The most frightening thing was that everything around Yang Dingtian that could be seen with the naked eye was a precious treasure. Yang Dingtian knew some of them, and Yang Dingtian didn't. At the very least, he recognized bloody black gold. The quality of the bloody black gold here was not inferior to that of the demonic silver mine, but it was not as dense. One here, one there. Like red lanterns, they filled the entire space. How many exactly? I don't know. I really don't know. In short, it was definitely much more than 999. This was the extreme south, and it was a desert. Tens of thousands of miles of the continent. There was only one huge volcano, and it was the condensation point of all the fire energy. Thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years of volcanic eruptions, finally condensed such an astronomical number of energy treasures here. Immediately after, Yang Dingtian also found the X crystal. This was because the color of this crystal was very strange. It wasn't red but rather blue. However, if it was blue, it had a hint of purple. Here there were X crystal everywhere. Unfortunately, it did not grow independently. It seemed to grow with other crystals. And although there were many of them, each one was not heavy. In short, the X crystal was like the stars in the sky, densely packed and innumerable. But they were very small. But even so, the final number of X crystal would be a very large number. At least many times more than that of the demonic silver mine. Yang Dingtian saw countless large missiles, small missiles, and fast torpedoes. In fact, once the accuracy problem was solved, it would not be impossible to move medium-sized missiles onto warships. In the end, Yang Dingtian seemed to see the beginning of the Doomsday War. The Congress of Light used a new method that was like a tsunami to send the countless Armageddon Legion to hell. Moreover, there were not only X crystal and bloody black gold here, but also many other incomparably precious crystals. Temporarily suppressing his excitement, Yang Dingtian searched everywhere for the Lord of the Abyss. There was no Lord of the Abyss with such an astronomical number of treasures. This was really strange. Yang Dingtian released countless wraiths again and again, almost exploring every inch of space. Then, he lit up the mystic fire and searched every space. There was really no Lord of the Abyss. It was really strange that there was no Lord of the Abyss with such an astronomical number of treasures. Yang Dingtian flew out of the volcano, and Duan Ruyan and the others immediately asked, "Sect Master, how was it? Are there any X-crystal?" "Yes," Yang Dingtian said. "How many?" The warlock leader couldn't help but ask. He was the most eager for X-crystal among all the people present. They had countless projects that were all waiting for the X-crystal stone. "I don't know. You need to go down and see for yourselves," Yang Dingtian said. Duan Ruyan said, "Sect Master, is there any danger down there?" Yang Dingtian: "I searched every corner and didn't see the Lord of the Abyss, nor did I see any demon beasts or even any living creatures." Next, dozens of advanced warlocks took the pills and brought enough materials. They rode the abyssal bats and followed Yang Dingtian into the volcano cave. After reaching the bottom of the cave, dozens of advanced warlocks looked at everything in front of them and were completely and utterly stunned. They even went crazy. Almost everyone jumped off the abyssal bats at the first moment, lay on the crystal ground, and opened their mouths and began to bite. This crystal was extremely hard. Their lips were instantly torn apart by the biting, and blood flowed nonstop. However, they still crazily bit and kissed these crystals. This feeling was like when the oil industry had just started. A few adventurers went through untold hardships and finally found a huge oil field. "Everyone, how many X-crystal are there here?" Yang Dingtian couldn't help but ask. 50,000 Jin. A warlock leader, after hesitating, said a number. No, it can't be 50,000 Jin. Are you kidding?" Another warlock said. "At least 100,000, no, 200,000, 300,000 Jin." The warlock leader said, "I have estimated according to the area here. 50,000 Jin is a conservative number. It should be about 100,000 Jin. It can't be 200,000, 300,000 Jin." Another figure lay on the ground and said, "Look carefully. There are more crystals below, and I don't know if it's the base." Suddenly, all the warlocks immediately lay down and looked, and then found that there was more than one layer. They were really rich. This feeling was like when China was established. Almost all countries judged that China was a poor country with no large oil fields at all. It was amazing to have a small oil field with a few million tons. As a result, not long after, Shengli oil field and Daqing oil field were discovered. Daqing oil field had reserves of several billion tons. But when Daqing oil field was discovered, they deeply felt that they had made a fortune. They had an endless supply of oil. Now these warlocks were thinking this way. They began to calculate in their minds. If there were 300,000 Jin of X-crystal, how many large missiles could they make? There were thousands of large missiles. As for small missiles, they could make tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands. If they really wanted to fall out with the Vulture Palace now, they could guarantee that all the Black Vultures would be wiped out. When the future Doomsday War began, the scene of tens of thousands of missiles being fired at the same time was shocking. Yang Dingtian suddenly said, "This type of X-crystal was previously known as the blood-black gold associated crystal. It is a byproduct of the blood-black gold. There are so many X-crystals, but why does it seem like there isn't much bloody black gold?" The warlock leader said, "Sect Master, this theory should be wrong. We were wrong to call it bloody black gold associated crystal. In fact, bloody black gold is its byproduct. It is the condensed essence of the real fire energy. Moreover, the higher the energy level of the X crystal, the smaller the proportion of bloody black gold. Today's situation completely proves that our previous idea was wrong. Bloody black gold is the associated product." Yang Dingtian: "How long will it take to complete the mining work here?" The warlock leader said, "Sect Master, it may take a long time." Yang Dingtian: "Then from now on, completely seal off all contacts between the extreme south and the outside world. Anyone who wants to enter the extreme south needs the signature of the Council of Light's Commander-in-Chief. Anyone who wants to leave the extreme south needs the signature of Her Excellency Duan Ruyan. Yes, Duan Ruyan said. Fortunately, the extreme south was originally isolated from the world, and the Council of Light's power on this land was supreme. No force or person could challenge the Council of Light's power. There's no time to lose. Immediately start discussing a mining plan, and then start mining in the shortest time possible, Yang Dingtian said. Yes, dozens of high-level warlocks said, and then directly sat on the ground and began to plan the entire mining plan. A few hours later, dozens of warlock leaders had completely determined the entire mining plan. Then, a team of thousands of people entered the depths of the mine with an astronomical number of elixirs. First, a camp was set up at the bottom of the mine. Then he installed all the equipment. Different groups were all set up. Then, in the shortest time possible, a large number of demonic spirit skates were transferred from the extreme south defense area. Because they were half-energy creatures, they didn't need to breathe air, and only needed to replenish crystals. They could be used as transportation mounts in this environment. After a day and a night, a huge camp and dozens of workshops were completely set up. Thousands of people were in the depths of this incomparably huge mine. The mining work officially began. During this period of time, Yang Dingtian had been going back and forth between the mine and the outside. On one hand, he built a strong defensive line around the volcano, a comprehensive defensive line on the ground and in the air. On the other hand, he and Duan Ruyan built the entire defensive system of the mine. 5 days and 5 nights after the official mining, the first batch of Crystal X, other related crystals, and a considerable amount of bloody black gold had been produced. Just the first batch of Crystal X alone exceeded 2,300 caddies. In other words, the Crystal X produced in these 5 days had exceeded the total production of the previous 2 years. Moreover, as the mining went deeper, the daily production increased. Yang Dingtian was very willing to share the joy of harvesting Crystal X here, but he had to leave. Because Dishi Bian, Wu Maji, and the other second stage of cultivation was about to be completed, Yang Dingtian had to go to the Forbidden Continent's illusion. However, fortunately, all the work here had already entered an orderly state. The entire area around the volcano had completely become a military restricted zone. No one could go near it, whether on land or in the air. There were hundreds of thousands of soldiers guarding the surroundings. Therefore, Yang Dingtian took the first batch of Crystal X, rode on the Demon Eagle, and returned to Zhongjing. 3 days and 3 nights later, Yang Dingtian returned to Zhongjing. However, he did not stop in Zhongjing. Yang Dingtian flew directly to an isolated island in the sea of the West Continent. This was the Council of Light's secret weapon manufacturing base. It was the top secret of the entire Council of Light. Moreover, the ancient giant beast Xiao Xiao was lurking in the nearby sea, guarding this most important secret base. When Yang Dingtian sent the 2,300 caddies of Crystal X into the underground secret base, everyone inside was in an uproar. It's done, it's done. Everyone only had this thought. It was really done. Many of the research that they dared not carry out could now be carried out. Many of the weapons projects that had been stopped could now be carried out. After leaving the secret base, Yang Dingtian went to Shijing. During this period, Wu Daozi did not do anything for the time being. However, Yang Dingtian felt that Wu Daozi would not give up so easily. Perhaps, Wu Daozi was looking for Yang Dingtian's new weakness and forcing him to compromise. After confirming that nothing was wrong, Yang Dingtian rode on the Demon Eagle and flew towards the Taboo Continent sea area. Calculating the time, Dishibian and Wu Maji's second world cultivation should be ending soon. After 1 day and 1 night, Yang Dingtian arrived at the Taboo Continent sea area and entered the Skull Hall. After entering the Skull Hall, the Council of Light's cultivation group was still normal. However, Shadowless used his lips to tell Yang Dingtian that he was a little late. Because Dishibian, Wu Maji, and Ling Wu's group's second world cultivation had already ended. They had already entered the third world cultivation yesterday. And now, his master, Dongfang Mimi's group was also about to complete their second world cultivation. Shadowless used his lips to tell Yang Dingtian, Dishi Bian, Wu Maji, and Ling Wu's cultivation results in the second world were even better than those in the first world. Dishi Bian had directly broken through from a 9-star level 1 Grandmaster to a 9-star level 5 Grandmaster. As for Ling Wu's cultivation, she had directly broken through to the Grandmaster level and was just waiting to borrow external forces. As for Wu Maji, she had directly advanced from an 8-star level 8 Grandmaster to a 9-star level 9 Grandmaster during her cultivation in the second world. She was only half a step away from becoming a Grandmaster. Chapter 793. The third stage of the Taboo Continent's illusory realm still had a considerable cultivation effect. However, it was inferior to the first and second worlds. As for the fourth and fifth worlds, it was purely to understand the history of the primal chaos world. Yang Dingtian knew that the real cultivation would begin from the sixth stage, because there were already many heaven-defying monsters here. They were equivalent to the dinosaurs of the Earth's Jurassic period. If one cultivated, they would basically have to kill from the beginning to the end. Even the oceans and continents would have to kill at least 1,000,000 miles. The cultivation effect would definitely be incomparably astonishing. However, he really didn't know how long it would take, because this was undoubtedly an unprecedented great adventure. Yang Dingtian didn't know how Dongfang Bingling passed the sixth world. One must know that when she entered the sixth world, her cultivation wasn't as good as the current Yang Dingtian. Compared to the first and second worlds, the third world was undoubtedly much brighter and more exciting. It was completely surfing. Therefore, Yang Dingtian clearly saw that Dishi Bian, Wu Maji and Ling Wu's facial expressions were much more flamboyant and nervous. They were no longer like before where they were in endless pain and numbness. Wu Maji's face even carried an adventurous feeling like she was on vacation. Very soon, the second group that mastered Dongfang Minmi was and also ended their cultivation in the second world. A beam of energy shot out from the Skull Palace and into their bodies. They began to absorb profound energy. After nearly a year of bitter cultivation, their energy seas and mystic meridians were already extremely exhausted. This time, they were going to absorb the profound energy crazily. Yang Dingtian discovered it. When cultivating in the Taboo Continent, time passed 5 times, 10 times and so on compared to the real world. However, once they entered the profound energy absorption, the time in the Taboo Continent's illusory realm and the real world's time were completely the same. After a full 24 hours, Master Dongfang Minmi's profound energy absorption had ended. The previous cultivation in the hard rock plain had allowed him to break through to the 6th class of 1 star. And this time in the magma continent, he had broken through to the 9th class of 1 star. Currently, Master was already a 7-star Great Grandmaster. Next, one group after another arrived at the end of the second world and began to absorb mystical energy. Qiu Wanjia had directly broken through to the Martial Grandmaster realm. Furthermore, he should be close to becoming a 2-star Martial Grandmaster. As long as he borrowed external help, he would be able to achieve a true breakthrough in his sea of qi and cultivation. And it wasn't just Qiu Wanjia. There were 4 elders from the Yinyang school, 3 elders from Qin City, and 3 elders from the Black Sky sect, had all broken through to the Great Grandmaster realm. Originally, these people had already reached the 9-star Martial Grandmaster level. However, if they cultivated normally, they would never be able to break through to the Martial Grandmaster level. Only the mysterious cultivation in the Taboo Continent's illusory realm allowed them to break through to the Great Grandmaster level. The other surprise was Qin Huayu. Before coming to the Forbidden Continent's illusory realm, his cultivation base was a 5-star Grandmaster. The first time he cultivated on the hard rock plain, he broke through to the level of an 8-star Grade 3 Grandmaster. And when he cultivated on the magma continent, he directly broke through to the level of a 9-star Grade 5 Grandmaster. He was not far from becoming a Great Grandmaster. Of course, there were also some that weren't ideal. For example, his mother-in-law Madame Shimen didn't want to come at the beginning. She only wanted to take care of her child in Cloud Sky City. In the end, she drew lots with her master's wife. She drew lots, so she had to come. Before entering the Taboo Continent's illusory realm, Madame Shimen was a 2-star Grandmaster. After the first world ended, she was only a 3-star Grade 2 Grandmaster. After the second world ended, she broke through to the level of a 4-star Grade 5 Grandmaster. In short, she didn't have much desire for power, so she didn't have much motivation to cultivate. Therefore, the level of her breakthrough was relatively small. It was only about half the level of others. At that time, Shimen Lai was a huge surprise. Before entering the Taboo Continent to cultivate, he was only a 1-star Grade 5 Grandmaster. He was 36 years old this year, and he had the Xianqi array. Although being a 1-star Grade 5 Grandmaster wasn't bad, it wasn't very outstanding. In the end, in the Taboo Continent's illusory realm, his almost crazy cultivation allowed him to achieve the greatest breakthrough among everyone. His cultivation in the first world directly soared from 1-star Grade 5 to 4-star Grade 7. His cultivation in the second world directly reached the level of a 7-star Grade 9 Grandmaster. Even Yang Dingtian was speechless at this cultivation speed. It was more than twice as fast as his mother-in-law Madame Shimen. It could be seen how urgent he was. As for Song Chunhua, before entering the Taboo Continent's illusory realm, her cultivation was higher than Qin Huayu's. She was already a 6-star Grade 8 Grandmaster. In the end, the results of her cultivation in the Taboo Continent's illusory realm seemed to be inferior to Qin Huayu's. The first cultivation result was good. She directly reached the level of a 9-star Grade 1 Grandmaster. However, the second cultivation in the Magma Plains only reached the level of a 9-star Grade 4 Grandmaster. She fell behind Qin Huayu for some reason. As for Marshal Uncle Li Guanong of the Wooden Sword Castle, after joining the Council of Light and escaping from his predicament, he immediately glowed with a second spring of cultivation. In a few years, he broke through from a mid-level Marshal Venerable to a 3-star Grandmaster. The results of this cultivation in the Taboo Continent's illusory realm were not bad, but not very outstanding. The first cultivation in the illusory realm directly reached the level of a 5-star Grandmaster. In the second cultivation world, he only reached the level of a 7-star Grade 1 Grandmaster. In the future, it would not be difficult to reach the level of a 9-star Grandmaster. However, it would be very difficult to break through to the level of a Grandmaster before the Great Doomsday War. This was because the difficulty of breaking through from a 9-star Grade 1 Grandmaster to a 9-star Grandmaster was no less than breaking through from a 1-star Grandmaster to a 9-star Grandmaster. However, no matter what, this cultivation in the Taboo Continent's illusory realm had at least added 13 or 14 Grandmasters to the Council of Light. Among them, the truly talented ones who were Yang Dingtian's absolute confidants were only Qin Huayu, Song Chunhua, and Wu Maji. It was even unknown whether Qin Huayu and Song Chunhua could break through to the level of a Grandmaster after leaving the Taboo Continent's illusory realm this time. Of course, even if they could not break through to the level of a Grandmaster this time, they would definitely break through to the level of a Grandmaster within 2 years of cultivation in the real world. The extra Grandmasters this time were all elders from famous sections. Those elders who had long been 9-star Grandmasters, but could never break through to the level of a Grandmaster, had an average age of more than 60 years old. However, it was still a huge surprise. The number of people who broke through to the level of a Grandmaster in the next cultivation group would definitely not be as many as this time. But there would still be a few. In other words, the number of Grandmasters in the Council of Light might exceed 30 or 40. In this way, the number of Grandmasters would completely surpass the number of Vulture Palace, and even the number of Hades Sea. In front of the Snake People Empire, they would not be any weaker. As for the Little Western Paradise, this was a matter of a different plane, and could not be compared. Moreover, as long as the human gate was guarded, the Little Western Paradise would not be able to come over. Next, Yang Dingtian stayed in the Great Hall of Skulls for nearly 10 days. It wasn't until all the groups had entered the third world to cultivate that they started to move. In fact, in another 5 days, Dishibian's first group's cultivation in the third world would be over. However, Yang Dingtian was still worried about Shijing. He was worried that Wu Daozi would not be willing to give up so easily and continue to do something. Therefore, Yang Dingtian left the Great Hall of Skulls again and returned to Shijing. After returning to Shijing, Wu Daozi was indeed looking for trouble. In the past few days, in the name of martial arts exchange, he challenged all the grandmasters of the Heavenly Edict Academy, including Qin Wanqiu and Ning Busi. He defeated all of them in one move. He completely trampled on the dignity of the Heavenly Edict Academy. After defeating all the experts of the Heavenly Edict Academy, he began to raid a secret base of the Council of Light in the Sunset Mountains. Then, he caused a huge earthquake at the bottom of the sea of the Council of Light Navy secret base, causing huge losses to the shipyard there. After Yang Dingtian received the news, he was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. This person was completely unreasonable. At first, he said that he would let Spirit Rabbit choose for herself. However, after she chose to stay, Wu Daozi did not give up, and went to find Hai Xan to join forces with him to deal with Yang Dingtian. He lost the literary battle in the sky above the taboo continent, but he was not willing to give up. He pressed on step by step, defeated Qin Wanqiu and Ning Busi, trampled on the dignity of the Heavenly Edict Academy, and forced Yang Dingtian to appear and compromise. However, Yang Dingtian was not there at the time. Later, he became more and more extreme, directly attacking the secret base of the Council of Light and the manufacturing base. This was tantamount to directly touching Yang Dingtian's bottom line. Moreover, he had publicly announced that within 3 days, Yang Dingtian must go to Lonely Mountain to see him. Otherwise, the consequences would be even more severe. Decades of imprisonment had caused this person to be so paranoid that he was almost twisted. Yang Dingtian immediately rushed to the Heavenly Edict Academy. This was because Wu Daozi's consecutive defeats of Ning Busi and Qin Wanqiu were a huge blow to the spirits of the students from the Heavenly Edict Academy. They even felt as if their spines had been broken, and their pride had suffered a huge setback. This would not do. The most important thing for the students of the Heavenly Edict Academy was to press forward with indomitable will, fearless ambition, and pride that would never compromise in the face of evil ways. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had to boost their morale. Thus, Yang Dingtian, who had never given a public speech at the Heavenly Edict Academy before, gave his first public speech. There were no heroic words, no angry scolding, and no righteous attacks. The person who defeated Martial Uncle Ning Busi and Martial Uncle Qin Wanqiu is called Wu Daozi. He is 170 years old this year, and the heir of the Vulture Palace. Nearly 100 years ago, he was already a 9-star 9th-grade Grandmaster. Recently, he obtained a 2nd-grade evil spirit, so he directly broke through to the half-saint realm. Now there are a total of 6 half-saints in the human countries. The first half-saint, Master of the Hades Sea, Wu Yu. However, she is not human. She is a descendant of the Speechless tribe and the Demon Fox tribe. The second half-saint, Queen Hai Xan of the Naga Empire. The third half-saint, my first wife, the demonized Dongfang Bingling. The fourth half-saint, Master of the Vulture Palace, the 200-year-old Wulingzi. The fifth half-saint, this Wu Daozi. The sixth half-saint, I am both a friend and a foe, the isolated and free Lord Wu Yuming. Just half a month ago, he joined forces with me to block the attack of Wu Daozi and Queen Hai Xan. Among the 6 half-saints, except for Wu Yuming, whose position is unknown, the other 5 are all enemies. Martial Uncle Ning Busi and Martial Uncle Qin Wanqiu are not that old, and do not have the energy of evil spirits. It is normal that they were defeated by half-saints. Then, how many half-saints will our Council of Light have in the end? Before the Great War of Extinction, it should be 2, or maybe 3. There seems to be a great disparity between the 2 sides. Then are we going to lose the will to fight? No. I will only say one thing. Half a month ago, in the battle between Wu Daozi and I won. What did I rely on? Brand new martial arts wisdom. We do not rely on evil spirits. We rely on higher martial arts wisdom, and we rely on higher war wisdom. No shame and then fight bravely. That is what you should do. As for these half-saints, it is my Yangdingtian's business. I am here to make a military pledge to everyone. Before the Great War of Extinction begins, I will sweep away Wu Daozi, Wolingzi, and Queen Hai Xian, the three obstacles that stand in the way of the Council of Light unifying the human continent. In at most 2 years, I will remove Wu Daozi, Wolingzi, and Queen Hai Xian from this world. This is my military pledge. As soon as these words came out, the low morale was instantly lifted. 100 or even 1,000 heroic words could not compare to a military order. So remember this. Half-Saint Wu Daozi defeated Ning Busi and Qin Wanshou. It is not your business. Your mission is to know shame, and then fight bravely. After the Great War of Extinction is won, you will rebuild the entire world. As for those half-saints coming to cause trouble, seeking revenge, and taking back their dignity, that's my business. I have already made a military pledge. I never lie. Everyone please wait for the results. Then, Yang Dingtian finished his speech. After a moment of silence, there was a tsunami of cheers. Long live Sect Master Yang Dingtian. They really did not expect Yang Dingtian's speech to be so straightforward. After concluding, it was a sentence. If someone comes to take revenge, I will make a military pledge to destroy them. The entire Heavenly Edict Academy was boiling. On Lonely Mountain, Yang Dingtian saw Wu Daozi again. Let the spirit rabbit come back with me, Wu Daozi said lightly. Otherwise you will suffer an unbearable blow. No, Yang Dingtian replied straightforwardly. I never use women to trade. Don't you want to know where I will strike next? Wu Daozi sneered. I don't know, Yang Dingtian said. The extreme south. Wu Daozi smiled and said, although I don't know what is there. Some time ago, you went to the extreme south from Zhongjing and stayed there for more than 10 days. If it wasn't because it was extremely important, you wouldn't have gone. So, I am going to see if there is any weakness there. If there is, I don't mind destroying it and making you suffer bone-piercing pain. Yang Dingtian's eyes suddenly turned cold. You go. What do you mean? Wu Daozi asked. If you go, I will go too, Yang Dingtian said. Then, I will be forced to pay a huge price to kill you. Completely kill you. You can kill me? Wu Daozi laughed and said. In the Taboo Continent's third move, if it weren't for Hai Xian and Mu Dan saving you, you would have died long ago. Then give it a try. Yang Dingtian then turned and left. Chapter 794. Killing Wu Daozi. Is Yang Dingtian bragging? One must know that Wu Daozi is a semi-sage expert. With Yang Dingtian's cultivation, he is far from being his opponent. And the most important thing is that he has a second-class evil spirit, which is completely immortal. Therefore, Yang Dingtian saying that he wants to kill Wu Daozi sounds completely ridiculous and is bragging. However, Yang Dingtian is not bragging. He really has a certain certainty that he can kill Wu Daozi, but the price is very, very big. What should he do to kill Wu Daozi? Wu Daozi said that he wants to go to the extreme south to find Yang Dingtian's weakness. At that time, he will definitely find that huge volcano, and then discover the astronomical number of treasures and crystal stones inside. Therefore, he will definitely enter the depths of the mine to investigate and destroy, thus forcing Yang Dingtian. Then, Yang Dingtian will use the special location of the volcano as the place to kill Wu Daozi. Yang Dingtian will withdraw everyone from the mine, transform the volcano, and then pour the unfreezing water in the volcano. This way, the entire volcano will become an unfreezing pool again. The temperature in the deepest part of the unfreezing pool is extremely low. Yang Dingtian's 9 Yangxian meridians can withstand it, but other people, even semi-sage, may not be able to withstand it. Of course, relying on the unfreezing pool is not enough. Perhaps it is not enough to suppress Wu Daozi. Yang Dingtian needs to use another trump card. Tens of thousands of years old ice-type demon beast, illusory spirit demon mother. Yang Dingtian placed it at the bottom of the unfreezing pool. This illusory spirit demon mother is an ice-type demon beast that has been brewing for tens of thousands of years. The ice energy released by it is not something a semi-sage expert can withstand, and Yang Dingtian has the protection of Naga Shuang's energy field, so he can resist its terrifying ice energy. At that time, Yang Dingtian will hide at the bottom of the unfreezing pool as the battlefield with Wu Daozi. At that time, as long as Daozi dived into the unfreezing pond, he would be trapped by the phantom spirit matriarch's ice energy, and the Naga Shuang would immediately entangle him. In the extreme cold energy, the half-saint Daozi would be trapped by the Naga Shuang. Of course, Naga Shuang might not be able to kill Wu Daozi because of the second-class evil spirit. But at that time, Yang Dingtian would summon the void-splitting flame and create a spatial door. He would bring Wu Daozi, the phantom spirit mother, and Naga Shuang into the world of darkness. Then he would take advantage of the time when Wu Daozi was frozen and throw him into the boundless abyss. The so-called border of the abyss was the place where the continent of death was constantly devouring the continent of life. It was the place where the entire world died. The energy there was absolutely destructive. Even Yao Qi was smashed into pieces and turned into ashes, let alone Daozi. At that time, even if there were evil spirits, it would be useless. They would die without a doubt. At that time, he would die without a single trace of ash. So Yang Dingtian was definitely not bragging. If he said he wanted to kill Wu Daozi, he really did have a way. But the price would be really high. At the very least, the mine would stop working. Then, there was the possibility that the Naga Shuang would be exposed. Finally, the spatial door created by the void-splitting flame could teleport him to any place in the world of darkness. If he was unlucky and teleported to a place with tens of thousands of times the gravity, Yang Dingtian might directly collapse and turn into ashes, dying together with him. In short, Yang Dingtian was very confident in killing Wu Daozi, but he would have to take a huge risk, even his life. Seeing Yang Dingtian walk away, Wu Daozi's face turned cold. Sir Yang Dingtian, don't be pretentious. Spirit Rabbit is just a woman to you. She only damaged some of your dignity. You don't have to risk your life to die. Yang Dingtian turned and said, I'll say it again. If you don't stop, you'll die. If you don't believe me, you can try. Ha ha ha, big words don't slander. I'd like to try. Wu Daozi laughed. Yang Dingtian didn't say anything more. It was useless to argue with people like Wu Daozi. If he couldn't talk, he could only use force. After leaving Lonely Mountain, Yang Dingtian flew directly to the Li Water Villa in the northwest Qin city. He went to the lake there and took the demon mother of fantasy spirits out again. A few hours later, he had already landed on the Li Water Villa. Last time, Ning Wuming used a trick to let Yang Dingtian get the demon mother of fantasy spirits, but it was useless. The demon mother of fantasy spirits was very important to the land around the Li Water Villa. The land around it was nourished by it and became a beautiful oasis, unlike other places that were full of ruins. Therefore, after the battle at the Cloud Sky Pavilion, the demon mother of fantasy spirits was not used. Yang Dingtian put it back at the bottom of the Li Water Villa. Anyway, even if they knew it was there, no one could take it away. They would freeze to death before they could dive 100 meters. The Li Water Villa was still as beautiful as before. The lake water was still quiet and clear. Yang Dingtian gently touched the lake water, and it instantly froze. The entire lake was frozen. Although the unfreezing water was extremely cold, it was nothing compared to the demon mother of fantasy spirits. Yang Dingtian reached into the space ring and woke up the sleeping Naga Shuang. Speaking of which, the last time Shuang Er woke up was when she killed a half-saint demon Rakshasa in the Underworld Empire. She had probably been asleep for nearly 2 years. Of course, some people might ask why he didn't just release the Naga Shuang to kill Wu Daozi. That demon Rakshasa was a half-saint, and Wu Daozi was also a half-saint. Shuang Er was still an advanced master. The reason she could kill the half-saint demon Rakshasa was because she was a half-saint. The demon Rakshasa was a failed god who had been slaughtered by the Naga for tens of thousands of years. Her fear of the Naga had been deeply engraved in her genes. Once she saw a Naga, she had no room to resist at all. However, humans were different. Although Wu Daozi would be extremely shocked, and even terrified when he saw the Naga Shuang, he would fight against the Naga Shuang. However, in the face of a Naga's attack, he would also fight to the death. If he explained, he would realize that this Naga's cultivation was only SOSO. It took a full 15 minutes for Yang Dingtian to wake up the Naga Shuang. After waking up, she came out of the space ring with a whoosh and wrapped her half-human, half-snake body around Yang Dingtian. "Hubby, I'm so sleepy." She stretched her beautiful waist, and an enchanting fragrance immediately spread out from her body. Then, she couldn't wait to open her small mouth and make out with Yang Dingtian. The Naga were like a race that would die if you didn't love them. Loving each other all the time. Being intimate with each other all the time. It was hard to imagine that the Naga were the cruelest race in the world. They had once destroyed the civilization of the entire world, and then the entire world. After kissing for a full 15 minutes, the Naga Shuang finally let go of Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian carefully looked at the most beautiful face in the world. When he saw Jia and Hai Xiam before, he always felt that they were the most beautiful faces in the world. Now, it seemed that the Naga Shuang was prettier. Her beauty was at the top of the pyramid in this world. Then, Yang Dingtian was pleasantly surprised to find that Shuang air continued to transform. Last time, her snake skin had already shed down to her buttocks. After sleeping for 2 years, her snake skin had shed another 4 inches. Now, not only was the Naga Shuang completely in human form, but half of her thighs were also in human form. As long as the bottom of her feet were completely transformed, she would be able to combine with Yang Dingtian and let Yang Dingtian undergo a nirvanic transformation. However, the Naga Shuang's transformation seemed to be much faster than expected. The ancient Naga's transformation was very slow. Of course, it was definitely not because she had slept for 2 years. Instead, it was because she had swallowed the energy of a demi-saint level Rakshasa. Then, Yang Dingtian felt the Naga Shuang's cultivation. She had actually broken through to the Great Grandmaster level and directly surpassed the mid-level Great Grandmaster level. Yang Dingtian suddenly shuddered. Whether it was humans, monsters, or foxes, they all relied on cultivation to break through. However, the Naga Shuang actually relied on swallowing the life and energy of others to break through. It seemed that the ancient Naga Shuang did not break through in this way. Although the ancient Naga Shuang was extremely greedy for the world's energy, it did not seem to have directly swallowed life to break through. Could it be that the Naga Shuang of this era had also undergone a transformation? If that was the case, it would be too terrifying. A god Shuang who relied on swallowing the life of others would most likely end up swallowing the last life of the world in order to become stronger. Then, she would be the only existence in the world. In other words, the Naga Shuang of this era was even more greedy and direct. Yang Dingtian glanced at the Naga Shuang. Her beautiful face and gem-like eyes were still innocent and flawless. If she wanted to become stronger, she had to keep swallowing. Last time, after she killed Emo Rakshasa, she went berserk and directly attacked Yang Dingtian. Although she stopped herself in time, it was obvious that she had lost her mind at some point. If it were a second or third time, Yang Dingtian could almost guarantee that she would completely lose her innocence and become the most brutal creature. She would hunt down everything in sight. Every time she became stronger for the Naga Shuang, it was like she had taken heroin. For Yang Dingtian, every time he relied on the Naga Shuang, it was the same. Although he had achieved his goal, the consequences may be more serious. This time he tried not to let Shuang or do anything, especially not to let her bite Wu Daozi to death, and not to let her swallow his cultivation energy. "Husband, why are you looking at me?" Shuang twisted her body and said coquettishly, "I haven't seen you for too long, I miss you." Yang Dingtian said, "Nonsense, I only slept for a while." Shuang said, "You slept for almost 2 years, Yang Dingtian said in his heart. "Husband, I'm so hungry." Shuang said. Yang Dingtian took out the demon core of a 1,000-year-old monster from his interspatial ring. After Shuang took it, she opened her small mouth and gently bit down with her white teeth. Like eating rock candy, she chewed the entire demon core and swallowed it. Yang Dingtian had goosebumps all over his body. This demon core was so hard that even the bloody black gold sword couldn't cut it. Schwanger's white little teeth chewed it more easily than rock candy. Yang Dingtian spent a long time to find out what Schwanger liked to eat. She liked to eat energy. The higher the energy level, the more she liked it, especially the fresh life energy. Although the demon core's energy level was high, she could only barely fill her stomach. Fortunately, Yang Dingtian was now the ruler of the entire human kingdom. Otherwise, even the previous Cloud Sky City Lord wouldn't have been able to raise her. In the past, there weren't many thousand-year-old demon cores in Cloud Sky City. After eating the demon core, she opened her eyes wide and looked at Yang Dingtian pitifully. She said, "Husband, I want more. I'm not full yet." If he wanted her to be full, 10 or even 100 wouldn't be enough. This was just to trick her into eating more food. "This is the last one." Yang Dingtian took out another one. After Schwanger took it, she directly chewed it bite by bite and swallowed it. After eating, although she still looked at Yang Dingtian pitifully, she didn't ask for more. Yang Dingtian said, "Schwang, let's go to that very, very cold jellyfish, okay?" "Okay," Schwanger said excitedly. In her memory, that good-looking and timid jellyfish was quite interesting. Jade. Yang Dingtian carried Schwang, and jumped into the lake. In an instant, the entire lake was completely frozen. But under the protection of Schwanger's energy field, Yang Dingtian almost couldn't feel the cold. As for the phantom spirit demoness, it was the simplest demon beast. Once it felt the invasion of energy, it didn't do anything but crazily spit out ice energy. After diving nearly 10,000 meters into the water, Yang Dingtian once again saw this dreamy and beautiful ice jellyfish. He once again sighed at the power of the Creator. Such a simple animal had actually lived for tens of thousands of years. It was such a small jellyfish that nourished hundreds of miles of land. It only knew how to do two things. The first was to constantly swallow, and the second was to constantly spit. Usually when there was nothing to do, it would constantly swallow energy. Once it encountered danger, it would desperately spit out energy to defend itself. It was such a small phantom spirit demoness that could instantly freeze a huge lake into ice. Yang Dingtian took out the energy shielding box that he had prepared long ago. Originally, there was a lot of special blue water inside. This phantom spirit demoness seemed to only like to live in this blue water. After putting it back into the box, it indeed forgot about its previous uneasiness and settled down leisurely in the box to live. This time, killing Wu Daozi, it's all up to you. Yang Dingtian then closed the box and put it into the space ring. Then he coaxed Schwang, into the space ring to sleep again. Yang Dingtian took the phantom spirit demoness and flew towards the southeast. If it wasn't for Wu Daozi's crazy pressure, Yang Dingtian wouldn't be so anxious to kill him. But since Wu Daozi touched Yang Dingtian's bottom line, there was no other way. Chapter 795. A few hours later, Yang Dingtian flew to Zhongjing. After arranging some important matters, he was going to the south, to the extreme south. But just as he entered the headquarters of the Council of Light, Yun Zhenu came forward and said, "Sect Master, someone is waiting for you in the room." Yang Dingtian was stunned. "Who is it?" Yun Zhenu rolled her eyes. "Go and see for yourself, then push the door open." Then she left by herself. On the bed in Yang Dingtian's room, the exquisite and beautiful spirit rabbit was sitting there obediently. Her eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had just cried. After seeing Yang Dingtian come in, she immediately stood up and bowed to Yang Dingtian. "Sect Master, I'm very, very sorry to disturb you at this time." Yang Dingtian shook his head. "What's the matter?" Spirit Rabbit was silent for a moment, then looked up and said, "Sect Master, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the harm my grandfather has caused to the Heavenly Revelations Academy." Yang Dingtian shook his head. "This has nothing to do with you, and the students of the Heavenly Revelations Academy are indeed lacking in tempering, so they are mentally and emotionally weaker." Spirit Rabbit said, "My grandfather came to find you again, and he's prepared to do something even more outrageous, right?" Yang Dingtian thought for a moment, then nodded. indicating that he admitted it. Immediately, Spirit Rabbit's tears continued to fall. Spirit Rabbit said, "Sect Master, then is my grandfather and you already in an irreconcilable relationship?" "Although it's ridiculous, it's true," Yang Dingtian said. "Although this reason may seem insignificant to outsiders, it's very important to both of us." Spirit Rabbit looked up. "Sect Master, you're now thinking of a way to stop my grandfather, right? And it's possible that this method is very intense." "Yes," Yang Dingtian said. "He challenged my bottom line. And if I don't stop him, it will bring immeasurable losses to the Council of Light and directly affect the future world destruction war. So to be precise, I'm thinking of a way to get rid of him." The Spirit Rabbit's beautiful face trembled and suddenly turned pale. Yang Dingtian was waiting for her to react violently and blame him, but she didn't. Instead, she continued to cry and said, "Sect Master, I can't blame you, because there's nothing wrong with doing this from your point of view. I'm also standing in the same position as you. But as I said, I can't place righteousness before family. On one hand, I'm standing on the side of justice, but on the other hand, I want to protect my grandfather." Wiping away the tears on her face, Spirit Rabbit said, "Sect Master, I want to go back with my grandfather." Yang Dingtian's eyes narrowed. "This is your own will. You should know that I won't be happy if you do this." Spirit Rabbit nodded in response. "That's my own will. First of all, my stance on your side will not change. Perhaps you don't know this, but rather than calling me one of your wives, it would be better to call me your follower and admirer. Secondly, you and my grandfather, just for an insignificant person like me, actually rose to a life and death relationship, which makes me very uneasy. If my grandfather dies, I will be devastated. But if you're unlucky, then I can only commit suicide to atone for my sins. Of course, it's not because I love you so much that I want to commit suicide, but because you're too important to the human kingdom. If you're hurt because of me, then I won't be able to explain myself." With that, Spirit Rabbit's tears continued to flow. This girl really seemed to be made of water. Spirit Rabbit said, "Last time, I rejected my grandfather because I wanted to stay. I felt that it was wrong to go back with him, and it went against my conscience and justice. But I didn't know that my grandfather would become so paranoid. If I knew there would be such consequences, I would have gone back with him. So it's not too late to make up for it now." Yang Dingtian said, "Spirit Rabbit, you should know. Your grandfather is a fanatic follower of evil ways. In this regard, he's even crazier than Walingzi. So even if you go back, he will be my enemy in the future, and I won't let him stay." Spirit Rabbit nodded vigorously and said, I know. I've always said that I'm with you. It's precisely because of this that I want to make a final effort. I'll stay by my grandfather's side and see if I can use family affection to win his heart back. Can I stop him from doing things that hurt the Council of Light? Even if Sect Master is in the Vulture Palace, I'm also a member of the Council of Light. I'll use my own means to fulfill my obligations." Yang Dingtian fell silent. In fact, Yang Dingtian didn't expect to rise to a life and death relationship with Wu Daozi so quickly, and the reason seemed really childish and ridiculous. One wanted to take away his granddaughter, and did not hesitate to challenge the highest interests of the entire human kingdom. The other wanted to keep a girl who was not too related to him, and just to protect her free will, he did not hesitate to risk his life to get rid of a semi-sage powerhouse, even if it would cost a huge price. Both of them were equally stubborn. In the eyes of others, they were equally childish. But there was no doubt that Yang Dingtian was forced to do this. It was very simple to stop this disaster, and he just had to take the initiative to send Spirit Rabbit over. But he couldn't do it. He didn't need a woman to make a deal, this was his creed. But now Spirit Rabbit took the initiative to say that she wanted to go back. After a long time, Yang Dingtian said, "Rabbit, you can't change him. He has been imprisoned for decades, and the hatred and desire in his heart can no longer be controlled. Moreover, second-class evil spirits will continue to devour his heart and will. He can't stop the fanaticism for evil ways." Spirit Rabbit suddenly cried out in grief and said, But at least I've tried, right? Then, she said to Yang Dingtian, "Don't worry, sect master. I won't ask for anything that will make it difficult for you. And grandfather has lived for more than 100 years. If it were anyone else, they would have lived for a long time. He has protected me with his greatest efforts and love in this life. I don't want evil to destroy his kindness and kindness." Yang Dingtian suddenly fell silent. He didn't need to say anything at all. This girl really knew everything. Her intelligence was far beyond Yang Dingtian's imagination. It could even be said that she was wise. "Well, then you can go back," Yang Dingtian said. Spirit Rabbit got up and bowed deeply. "Thank you, sect master. Please give this letter to my grandfather. I want to go back with him in 5 days. I haven't finished the drawings and designs for this issue of the Apocalypse Academy Bulletin. I want to say goodbye to the teachers and students after I'm done." "Okay," Yang Dingtian said. Spirit Rabbit returned to Shijing to finish her work and say goodbye to the teachers and students. A few hours later, Yang Dingtian intercepted Wu Daozi. In fact, his whereabouts were basically monitored by the Council of Light. Of course, he deliberately let the people of the Council of Light monitor him. Then, he directly handed the letter to Wu Daozi. After reading the letter, Wu Daozi's body trembled slightly. Then he blinked hard and looked at Yang Dingtian. "If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. Sect Master Yang, you really did something unnecessary." Yang Dingtian didn't reply to any of his words since they couldn't get along. "Well, since that's the case, you and I will stop here for the time being," Wu Daozi said slowly. "Without orders from His Majesty Demon King or Princess Mudan, I won't make a move against the Council of Light. However, once His Majesty Demon King or Princess Mudan gives the order, I will do anything." Yang Dingtian didn't answer either. Because before the Apocalypse War, Wu Daozi, Queen Hai Xian, and Wulingzi must be dealt with. Yang Dingtian's military order at the Heavenly Edict Academy wasn't because he was hot-headed, but because it was necessary. Otherwise, why didn't he include Wu Yu, Mudan, and other people of the evil ways on the list of people he wanted to eliminate? Because Yang Dingtian wanted to win the Apocalypse War wholeheartedly. He wanted to completely unite and unify the human countries. Wu Daozi and Wulingzi were the biggest obstacles. Yang Dingtian absolutely couldn't tolerate hundreds of thousands of Black Vulture troops suddenly surging out from behind and attacking his back when the Apocalypse War started. He also absolutely couldn't allow the hundreds of millions of troops of the Snake People Empire to surge out when the Apocalypse War started and make the human countries fight one against two. So at most 2 years. In less than 2 years, he had to complete these 3 tasks. Destroy Hai Xian, help Poisa take back the Snake People Empire, and turn the Dongli grasslands from enemies to allies. Take back the Vulture Palace, and turn the 200,000-strong Black Vulture troops from enemies into his trump card air force. So, after the second batch of Council of Light higher-ups finished cultivating, Yang Dingtian would first eliminate the extremely dangerous Dongli. Then, he would temporarily put everything aside and search for the 5th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship to break through to the half-saint level. He had to break through to the half-saint level within a year at most. Only by breaking through to the half-saint level could he get rid of these 3 people and concentrate on welcoming the Apocalypse War. 5 days later, Spirit Rabbit finished the latest issue of the Heavenly Edict Academy's report and said goodbye to the mentors and students. Then, she left the Heavenly Edict Academy that brought her the greatest joy and returned to the Vulture Palace that she didn't like at all and hated bitterly, even if she had to go back as a princess. But she had no choice. She had to do one last effort for her grandfather and for Sect Master Yang Dingtian. At the Council of Light headquarters, Yang Dingtian, who had been busy all day, didn't wait for Spirit Rabbit to say goodbye. He still felt a little disappointed in his heart. After working until midnight, he returned to his room and lay on the soft window. He could rest for 4 hours. But just as he lay on the bed, a delicate fragrant body suddenly burrowed into his arms. It was Spirit Rabbit. "Sect Master, I am here to take back our flower candle night. I know you will refuse. I know your heart can't bear the burden, but you have to accept it. This is not for you, but for me." Then, she kissed him with incomparable determination. Chapter 797. Spirit Rabbit's movements were inexperienced and extremely determined. Although her voice was soft, her gaze was soft, and her movements were soft. But when she was doing something, Yang Dingtian was unable to stop her. Yang Dingtian stopped her. "Sect Master, you can't stop me. This is very important to me." Spirit Rabbit panted. "If I didn't go with Grandpa, perhaps we would never have become a real husband and wife. I would have become your follower, an ordinary member of the Heavenly Edict Academy. But now, I'm going back to the Vulture Palace with Grandpa, so it's very important to give myself to you." Yang Dingtian gently stroked her face. "I'm not stopping you. I'm just asking you, have you really thought it through? You should know that your grandpa and I are likely to fight to the death. I'm determined to get the Black Vulture Legion. I've thought it through, I've really thought it through." The Spirit Rabbit spoke delicately. Its sparkling big eyes were staring at Yang Dingtian's eyes without any intention of dodging. "That's good," Yang Dingtian said. "Then this matter should be left to me. Otherwise it would seem that I'm very hypocritical." Then Yang Dingtian turned over and got up, holding Spirit Rabbit's crystal clear and delicate body in his arms. Staring into her beautiful eyes, under her fearful and expectant gaze, he firmly and slowly took possession of Spirit Rabbit, this exquisite and beautiful angel. The next morning, Yang Dingtian was the only one left in his bed, and there was no one beside him. Spirit Rabbit rode a demon eagle south, flying towards the Vulture Palace. This demon eagle was given to her by Yang Dingtian and the Heavenly Edict Academy. Because the spiritual Vulture Palace was filled with black vultures, this demonic vulture would stand out from the crowd and be unique. Yang Dingtian also hoped that in the Vulture Palace, Spirit Rabbit would still be unique, that wise and determined angel. After the Spirit Rabbit left, Wu Daozi didn't cause any more trouble for the Radiant Parliament. As for Mu Dan, she seemed to have completely disappeared. There were 5 second-class evil spirits in total. She had given them to Lung Ao, Gudawu and Wu Daozi. As for the other 2, she had no idea who she would give them to. As for Queen Hai Xian, after her setback in the Taboo Continent, especially after seeing Yang Dingtian survive the life and death calamity, she also calmed down. Therefore, the Council of Light entered its most peaceful period. Everything was in order, and there were no attacks or provocations. Even so, Yang Dingtian still went to the extreme south, and went to the volcanic mine again. It had been half a month since the last time he left. This time, the amount of X crystals that were excavated and refined actually exceeded 10,000 caddies. And according to the Warlock leader, the more than 10,000 gene of X crystal stone that had been mined so far was just a drop in the ocean. The reserves of this giant mine would be very, very impressive. Although this giant mine was still considered safe, Yang Dingtian still had to make the necessary preparations. Therefore, he decided to modify the crater of the volcano, and then pour the unfreezing water in again to restore the incomparably cold unfreezing pond. Then a mining team of several thousand people, carrying several times the amount of supplies, would stay in the mine for a long time to carry out mining and refining, as well as some elementary research. Every 10 days, the water in the unfreezing pond would be drained, and then the people in the mine would be replaced. In this way, they would rotate every 10 days to ensure that there was always a deep unfreezing pond at the crater of the volcano as the mine's defensive line. Under such extreme cold, even a top expert would find it very difficult to endure. After the first wave of Council of Light's higher-ups finished their cultivation, there would be more than 10 great grandmasters. At that time, they would send another 4 to 5 great grandmasters to guard the mine. Basically, it would be safer. After staying in the volcanic mine for a few days, Yang Dingtian returned to Zhongjing with more than 10,000 gene of X crystal stone. Then, he went to the Taboo Continent's sea region. When Yang Dingtian appeared in the Skull Hall again, Dishi Bian, Wu Maji, and Ling Wu's cultivation in the Third World had already ended. They had already entered the Fourth World to cultivate. As for the fourth world, it was basically very difficult to have the opportunity to cultivate. They could only go sightseeing. This was because they could already fly in the fourth world. Moreover, as long as they carried the same amount of huge rocks, the devil vulture could fly rapidly without carrying any weight. Of course, they had to avoid the sky full of meteorites midway. In the fourth world, there were still no traces of life, but the continent had already started to separate. It was no longer a complete piece. To be precise, it was an earth-shaking upheaval. Countless meteorites smashed down, and the huge continent separated. The entire world had become the embryonic form of the primal chaos continent. Therefore, even though the fourth world was also more than 1 million miles long, under the situation of flying more than 1,000 miles per hour, they only needed to stay in the dreamland for more than a month to pass through. Of course, Yang Dingtian asked them to carefully explore the fourth world and try their best to remember the complete scene of the primal chaos continent. This was because the primal chaos world at that time was more than 10 times bigger than the current one. After hundreds of millions of years of evolution, and after many great annihilations, the current primal chaos world was less than 5%. Therefore, even if it was sightseeing, they only needed to stay in the dreamland for half a year, which was equivalent to 4 to 5 days in the real world. Next, the second group, the third group, and the fourth group entered the fourth world one after another. At this time, the expression on their faces was no longer numb and painful. Instead, it had become carefree and pleasing to the eye. This was because the fourth world was completely a sightseeing tour, to understand the appearance of the primal chaos world when it was first born. Very soon, Dishibian's first group finished their tour of the fourth world. Originally, they should have come out at this time. However, Yang Dingtian said at that time that if they wanted to see the origin of the primal chaos world, then they could tour the fifth world. This was because the fifth world was the most beautiful world, without any bit of danger. In the fifth world, plants had already appeared on the land, and animals had also appeared in the sea. Moreover, they were very primitive plants and animals, which were impossible to see in the current world. Therefore, Dishibian, Wumaji, and Lingwu still decided to stay in the fifth world for some time. After staying in the fifth world for a few months, they basically studied all the animals and plants that they had seen. After that, Dishibian's first group directly rode on the devil vulture and flew in the opposite direction in the illusory void of the sixth world. Making use of the recoil of the mystic fire, they exceeded the movement speed of the illusory void, causing a flaw in the system. After that, they directly woke up from the illusory void of the taboo continent. After returning to reality and waking up, Wu Maji seemed to be unable to distinguish between the feeling of illusion and reality. First, she looked at the surroundings in disbelief. When she saw Yang Dingtian, she immediately pounced on him like a little bird and kissed Yang Dingtian fiercely with her little mouth. Because she was worried that it would affect the cultivation of the others, Emoji didn't make a sound. She only kissed him fiercely, as if she was about to stop breathing. This cultivation in the illusory void of the taboo continent might not even last 3 months in the real world. However, in the illusory void, it was a full few years. That kind of mental exhaustion, as well as the longing for their loved ones, was indescribable. When Ling Wu saw the intimacy between Yang Dingtian and Emoji, she stood peacefully at one side. The corners of her mouth contained a slightly strange smile, but she didn't say anything. In the next few days, the higher-ups of the Council of Light completed the first 4 stages of cultivation in the illusory void of the taboo continent one after another. They left the illusory void one after another and returned to reality. On the 8th day after Wu Maji woke up, the last group also completed the cultivation. At this point, the first half of the Council of Light's cultivation in the illusory void of the taboo continent had completely ended. 42 experts above the Grandmaster level had all completed their cultivation. Just as Yang Dingtian had predicted, the Council of Light had an additional 13 Grandmaster level experts from then on. Dishibian, after passing the cultivation in the third world and the fourth world, Her cultivation base had broken through from a 9-star 5th grade Grandmaster to a 9-star 7th grade Grandmaster. In the end, she still hadn't reached Yang Dingtian's 9-star 9th grade Grandmaster level cultivation base. As for Wu Maji, when she ended her cultivation in the second world, she just happened to be a 9-star 9th grade Grandmaster. After passing the cultivation in the third world, she directly broke through the Grandmaster level cultivation base and became a 1-star 5th grade Grandmaster. What was left was for Yang Dingtian to use the Mystic Flame Lightning to help her truly break through to the Grandmaster level. With the help of the third great evil spirit, the Netherworld Ghost Emperor's Banquet, and the cultivation in the illusory void of the Taboo Continent, Wu Maji finally broke through to the Grandmaster level before the age of 30. Every time there was a great change, there would be a portion of people whose cultivation base would advance by leaps and bounds. Without a doubt, Wu Maji was one of them. If it weren't for these fortuitous encounters, Wu Maji would have only broken through to the Grandmaster level at her age. As for Ling Wu, her cultivation base had broken through to a 2-star 5th grade Grandmaster. She was just waiting for Yang Dingtian to use the Mystic Flame Lightning to help her truly break through to the Grandmaster level. Her master, Dongfang Minmi, broke through to an 8-star 1st grade Grandmaster from a 7-star 7th grade Grandmaster and became the third expert in the Council of Light. As for Qin Huayu, he broke through to a 9-star 8th grade Grandmaster from a 9-star 5th grade Grandmaster and was only 1 step away from the Grandmaster level. It was a pity. As for Song Chunhua, after cultivating in the second world, she had originally fallen behind Qin Huayu. She didn't expect that after cultivating in the third world, the latecomer would catch up. In the third world, where others didn't gain much, she actually directly broke through to a 9-star 9th grade Grandmaster from a 9-star 4th grade Grandmaster, and was only 1 step away from the Grandmaster level. As for Shimin Lai, his final breakthrough to a 6-star 9th grade Grandmaster was also a great surprise. As for his mother-in-law Madame Shimin, her final breakthrough to a 5-star 2nd grade Grandmaster was fixed. If this continued, the possibility of her breaking through to the Grandmaster level would be very small. As for Li Guanong of the Wooden Sword Castle, he had completely blinded Yang Dingtian's eyes. During his cultivation in the third world, his gains were the greatest. In terms of breaking through to the star class, he even surpassed Yang Dingtian at that time. Before the end of the second world, he was a 7-star 1st grade Grandmaster. After the end of his cultivation in the fourth world, he finally stopped at a 9-star 2nd grade Grandmaster. Such a huge breakthrough really made people gasp in amazement. Perhaps he was too eager to revitalize the Wooden Sword Castle, or perhaps he really felt that his cultivation was not worthy of his position in the Council of Light. He was now the supreme commander of the entire southwest continent. This position originally belonged to Duan Ruyan, but later Duan Ruyan was sent to the farthest southern defense area as the supreme commander of the military. Although no one said anything about him, among the many continental commanders, Li Guanong's cultivation was the weakest. Therefore, he was also the most hard-working in his cultivation. The cultivation in the illusory realm of the taboo continent this time was so rare. Therefore, he was completely filled with the confidence to win and cultivated with all his might. Therefore, in this cultivation frenzy, Li Guanong had practically become one of the people who had the greatest breakthrough. Yang Dingtian was going to lead over 40 high-ranking members of the Council of Light back to the Zhong capital to replace the members who were left behind. Yao Ling and Shadowless still had to stay here. Demon Vulture King Aja and Ling Bai could temporarily follow Yang Dingtian back to the Zhong capital. However, during the next wave of cultivation, they still had to return to the Hall of Heads to carry out their duties. This time, the Council of Light had an additional 13 Grandmasters. All of them needed Yang Dingtian to use the Mystic Flame Lightning to strike their Qi vessel and cause the Qi vessel to undergo a substantial nirvana, allowing them to truly break through to the Grandmaster level. However, these matters would have to wait until they returned to the Zhong capital. Although Ling Wu's cultivation had already ended, according to the agreement, Wu Yuming still had to help guard the entrance to the human countries. Before Yang Dingtian led the team back to the Zhong capital, he told Ling Wu that he could use the mystic flame lightning to help Ling Wu break through to the Grandmaster level. However, Ling Wu shook her head and said that there was no need. She said that they would talk about it after Yang Dingtian returned. After returning to the Zhong capital, Yang Dingtian spent half a day to help the 13 high-ranking members to truly break through to the Grandmaster level. Wu Maji was one of them. From then on, the Council of Light had an additional 13 Grandmasters. After that, they immediately dispatched 4 Grandmaster-level experts, including Dishi Bian and Wu Maji, to the extreme south to replace Duan Ruyan and guard the volcanic mine. In the following period of time, the high-ranking members of the Council of Light, who were cultivating in the Taboo continent, began to take over various government affairs. As for the remaining members led by Zhuo Qingqi and Zhu Hongxue, they began to prepare to head to the Taboo Continent's sea region to participate in the next round of cultivation. 4 days later, Duan Ruyan returned with over 10,000 kilograms of X crystals. Yang Dingtian led the remaining 39 high-ranking members of the Council of Light, who were at the Grandmaster level and above, to the Taboo Continent's illusory realm to participate in the next round of cultivation. 85 days later, the second half of the cultivation of the high-ranking members of the Council of Light had ended. At this point, the cultivation plan of the Council of Light's high-ranking members in the Taboo Continent's illusory realm had come to a perfect end. Chapter 798. In the second half of the cultivation, among the 39 higher-ups of the Council of Light, led by Qin Wanqiu, Duan Ruyan, Master's wife, and Zhu Hongxue, 7 of them had broken through to the Great Grandmaster realm. Although it was not as good as the previous cultivation, it was still within Yang Dingtian's expectations. In this cultivation, Qin Wanqiu had broken through from a 7-star Great Grandmaster to a 9-star second-tier Great Grandmaster. He had once again replaced Dongfang Minmi as the 3rd Master of the Council of Light. Elder Ning Busi had broken through from a 5-star 9th-tier Great Grandmaster to an 8-star Great Grandmaster. Perhaps because he was too old and did not have a strong desire to win, the overall breakthrough was not big. Duan Ruyan was originally a 9-star Grade 9 Grandmaster. She had an extremely tough personality and was extremely competitive. Coupled with the replenishment of the evil spirit energy, she was able to make up for it. With the help of the evil spirit, she had directly broken through from a 9-star 9th-tier Great Grandmaster to a 6-star 9th-tier Great Grandmaster. The level of her breakthrough was completely shocking. She was considered one of the most outstanding people in the second half of the cultivation. For example, Yun Kalin, who was originally a Great Grandmaster, had only broken through to a 4-star 5th-tier Great Grandmaster in the first half of the cultivation, falling behind Duan Ruyan. There was another surprise, which was Zhu Hongxue. Although he had lost an arm, it was as if he had been reborn. Before coming to the Taboo Continent to cultivate, he had already been a 4-star Great Grandmaster. After the cultivation here, he had directly soared to a 9-star 4th-tier Great Grandmaster. It was believed that in the near future, the Council of Light would have another Great Grandmaster. There was another surprise in this cultivation, which was Master's wife. Master's wife had originally been a 5-star Great Grandmaster. Perhaps because she had seen her precious Yang Dingtian snatched away, she had desperately invested in the cultivation when she came to the Taboo Continent to cultivate. She wanted to strengthen herself so that she could better protect Yang Dingtian's babies in the future. Therefore, after the cultivation, she had directly become a 9-star 6th-tier Great Grandmaster. She was not far from becoming a Great Grandmaster. Another important person was Yun Qi, the current Pavilion Master of the Cloud Sky Pavilion, and Yin Kalin's senior sister. She had originally been a 9-star 8th-tier Great Grandmaster. This time, she had directly broken through to a 3-star 1st-tier Great Grandmaster. On the other hand, Kuei Qing's cultivation results this time were barely satisfactory. Initially, Zhang Xian was a 1-star Grade 8 Zongshi Master, But after completing his cultivation, he had advanced to a 5-star grade 6 Zongshi master. Perhaps she wasn't that ambitious to begin with. Instead, it was Kuei Ning's mother, Kuei Si's wife, who was once wrongly accused of being an agent of evil ways. She seemed to be holding her breath as she soared from a 1-star 9th grade grandmaster to a 7-star 9th grade grandmaster. There was another important person, Song Xiao. He had lost a leg, and this time, he brought a prosthetic leg into the taboo continent to cultivate. Before he started cultivating, he was a 2-star grade 5 martial grandmaster. He also wanted to become stronger and take revenge on Tai Muley with his own hands. However, perhaps he had suppressed his anger too much and sought victory too much. Therefore, his cultivation results could only be considered average. He had broken through from a 2-star 5th grade grandmaster to a 5-star 1st grade grandmaster. In short, after this cultivation, the Council of Light had a total of 20 more great grandmasters and 7 or 8 would-be great grandmasters. Now the number of martial grandmasters in the Radiant Parliament had exceeded 30. In a few years, the number of martial grandmasters in the Radiant Parliament would definitely exceed 40. In the human countries, the number of top masters had already surpassed that of the Sea of Hades and the Vulture Palace. Now, Yang Dingtian finally understood why the Sea of Hades had more than 20 great grandmasters. Previously, it had completely monopolized the cultivation resources of the entire taboo continent. In the past few years, it had finally accumulated more than 20 great grandmasters. However, it was only a force that controlled a region after all. In terms of numbers, it was still inferior to the Council of Light. Therefore, the Council of Light had gained more than 20 great grandmasters after just one cultivation. Now, compared to the Vulture Palace, the Serpent Men Empire, and the Sea of Hades, the Council of Light only lacked half-sage level top masters. Currently, this hope had landed on Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian. Both of them had hopes of breaking through to the half-sage level in a short period of time. Once Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian had both broken through to the half-sage level, then, the Council of Light would directly launch an aggressive offensive before the Doomsday War. They would take down the Vulture Palace, the Serpent Men Empire, and the Sea of Hades. In the end, they would completely unify the power of the entire world to fight against the Doomsday army of the Demon King Wentian. The entire cultivation lasted for nearly half a year. The time to part with Wu Yuming and Ling Wu had finally arrived. It was very obvious that Wu Yuming had long avoided this so-called farewell. When Yang Dingtian flew out of the Hall of Heads, he had already disappeared. Yang Dingtian said to Ling Wu, "Now, I can help you break through to the Great Grandmaster level, right?" Ling Wu nodded. Previously, when Yang Dingtian wanted to use the Mystic Flame Lightning to help Ling Wu break through to the Great Grandmaster level, she had rejected every single one of them. She said that she wanted to wait until the cultivation had ended, and they had to part ways. Now it was time for them to part ways. Yang Dingtian was already very familiar with using the Mystic Flame Lightning to bombard the Sea of Hades, and forcefully raise the Sea of Hades to break through to the Great Grandmaster level. Ling Wu floated in the air with unparalleled beauty. "Are you ready?" Yang Dingtian asked. "I'm ready," Ling Wu replied. Yang Dingtian had already brewed enough mystic flame energy. The million-spirit demon fire of the primal chaos attribute floated out from his left hand. The demon spirit demon fire of the primal chaos attribute floated out from his right hand. The two mystic flames suddenly floated to the top of Ling Wu's head and gently collided with each other. Immediately, an incomparably huge lightning struck down from the top of Ling Wu's head. In an instant, an incomparably resplendent brilliance exploded. The entire sea surface was as bright as day. After a while, the brilliance dispersed. Ling Wu was safe and sound, not to mention that her body was injured. Even a strand of her hair wasn't burnt. After that, her entire body was completely immersed in the enormous energy. Her Sea of Hades continued to expand, explode, and disappear. In the end, Ling Wu's cultivation directly stopped at the level 5 2-star Great Grandmaster level. She, who was originally unable to break through to the Great Grandmaster level within 3 years, had broken through to the level 5 2-star Great Grandmaster level in less than half a year. In this major cultivation, she should be the one who ranked first in terms of results. Second great evil spirits were indeed heaven-defying. How do you feel? Yang Dingtian asked. Ling Wu's face was slightly flushed as she said, previously, I've suffered the ravages of the second great evil spirit's lust. This time, I've directly broken through to the Great Grandmaster level and instantly filled up all the lust of the evil spirit. I feel incomparably satisfied and incomparably happy. In fact, I can't even sense the existence of the evil spirit during this period of time. Yang Dingtian smiled and said, it might have eaten its fill, so it fell asleep. Ling Wu said, that might be the case. I hope it can wake up a little later. In the next few years, there won't be any mystic flames. I won't be able to feed it until it's full. Yang Dingtian asked, where do you plan to go next? Ling Wu said, Big Brother said that he wants to bring me to some secret realms. That's right, after I go to those secret realms, I'll tell you the cultivation method and the location of the secret realms. You can also organize the experts of the Council of Light to go and train there. Yang Dingtian said, that's great. Ling Wu said, after that, Big Brother said that he wants to bring me to the edge of the primal chaos world. Those places that almost all humans have never been to before. Yang Dingtian nodded his head. The two of them immediately sunk into silence. Yang Dingtian said, all right then, go ahead. Brother Netherworld should be impatient from waiting. Ling Wu stood at her original spot, raised her eyes and said with a smile, Sect Master Yang, aren't you going to try to invite me to stay? Right now the Council of Light is really short of people. Yang Dingtian said, even if I ask you to stay, you won't stay. Moreover, Wu Yuming should need you by her side more. Ling Wu smiled. Then, she muttered to herself, when you become strong, you'll realize how laughable you were in the past. Sometimes an inferiority complex can really destroy a person. This sentence was a truth that had been verified countless times. It was the same even in the real world. Regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, when he failed, all the negative emotions would surge forth. Due to an inferiority complex, it would lead to extreme sensitivity and narrow-mindedness. It would even lead to delusions of persecuting others, extreme self-esteem and so on. Once a person succeeded and became confident, all these negative things would vanish like smoke in thin air. As a matter of fact, even Yang Dingtian couldn't avoid such emotions. When he was expelled from the Yinyang school by Dongfang Bingling, and was bullied by Cloud Heaven City, his heart was also filled with negative emotions. If it wasn't for Yang Dingtian, using her gentleness and tolerance to protect him during that period of time, at the very least, Yang Dingtian would also be narrow-minded and extreme during that period of time. Alright, close your eyes for a while. Ling Wu said. This isn't good. Yang Dingtian said. This is what makes you detestable. Do you know that? Ling Wu said. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes awkwardly. A fragrance approached. The unique fragrance of Ling Wu's delicate body wafted into his nose. After I've truly found myself, I'll prove my value to you. Ling Wu said word by word beside Yang Dingtian's ear. Then her bright red, soft and fragrant lips planted a kiss on Yang Dingtian's cheek. It was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Then she quickly drifted away. By the time Yang Dingtian opened his eyes, she had already disappeared from his field of vision. Yang Dingtian was about to lead everyone back to the Zhongjing. As for shadowless and demon spirits, they were about to officially leave the Hall of Heads. It wasn't that Yang Dingtian didn't want to occupy the Hall of Heads, but his current strength was simply not enough. After returning to the Zhongjing, Yang Dingtian first used the mystic fire lightning to help the 7 people in the second half of their cultivation break through to the Grandmaster realm. Then, he completely handed over all the affairs of the Council of Light to the various higher-ups. In the following period of time, he and Dishi Bian had to think of ways to break through to the half-saint realm. And the most direct way was to find the 5th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Therefore, Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian had to go to those mysterious and dangerous void borders of this world. That was the place where Ning Wuming and the others hunted demon spirits. There, they would cultivate while searching for the traces of Shiwu Piaoyan. Just when young Ding Tian was about to set off, the messenger of the Demon Wrath Patriarch, from the Shadow Spear clan of the Little Western Paradise, appeared in front of young Ding Tian. Jia is about to give birth. Her life is in danger. Mr. Jiang Shang, please hurry over. Chapter 799. Young Ding Tian was shocked. Yao Rao had been pregnant for nearly 2 years before she gave birth to Yang Yi. Jia had only been pregnant for about 9 months. Now she was about to give birth, and her life was in danger? What was the reason for this? Could this be a scheme? A scheme to deceive young Ding Tian into going to the Little Western Paradise. However, young Ding Tian quickly denied this possibility. Although young Ding Tian was now a 9-star 9th grade great-grandmaster, whether it was under Yongxi or Monster's Wrath 2, there were a lot of experts above the Sage-to-be level. If they really wanted to do something to young Ding Tian, they didn't need to deceive him. Young Ding Tian asked the emissary, "Why is Jia's life in danger when she gives birth?" The emissary said, "Mr. Jiang Shang will know when he goes." Young Ding Tian wanted to say, "What if I don't go?" However, he still couldn't say such words. Although he and Jia didn't have any feelings before, the child in her belly was young Ding Tian's after all. Therefore, after a little hesitation, young Ding Tian decided to go to the Little Western Paradise. After a brief explanation, young Ding Tian followed Monster's Wrath 2's emissary and went to the Forbidden Continent's sea area. They passed through the Skull Hall and went to the Little Western Paradise. After entering the Little Western Paradise's plain, young Ding Tian's body quickly changed again. From his human appearance, he changed into the appearance of Jiang Shang from the Speechless clan. Then, Monster's Wrath emissary's eyes were suddenly filled with infinite shock and admiration. At this time, young Ding Tian suddenly understood. Perhaps in the emissary's eyes, Mr. Jiang Shang wasn't a fake, but a real Speechless clan. On the contrary, young Ding Tian's identity was just a doppelganger of Jiang Shang from the Speechless clan. His Speechless clan was very powerful. When he entered the Little Western Paradise, he was the Speechless clan. When he entered the human countries, he looked like a human. Unlike the Fox Demon clan, their cultivation had been deteriorating ever since they entered the human world from the Little Western Paradise. After boarding the luxurious flying carriage, young Ding Tian and the rest flew towards Indu. After flying for less than 10,000 li, when they passed by the Shadow Spear clan, a beautiful middle-aged woman appeared in front of young Ding Tian. Her graceful and beautiful face was filled with anxiety. You are Mr. Jiang Shang, right?" the middle-aged woman asked. Young Ding Tian was startled. Then, he saw some shadows of Jia and Yarao on this middle-aged woman's face. He knew that she might be his cheap mother-in-law. However, it was very strange. When he was in the Western Paradise, he had never seen her appear. "I am Jia's mother," the beautiful middle-aged woman said. "I have been cultivating in the temple before, so Mr. Jiang Shang has not seen me before." "Oh, no wonder." Cultivating in the temple was considered a fashion in the Little Western Paradise. More accurately, it was more like a golden gilding of the high noble's philosophy and aesthetics. It was like a different kind of meditation. It was originally the behavior of the wise and the artists. Later, it was praised by many high nobles and became a very ostentatious behavior. However, no matter how ostentatious it was, this kind of cultivation was very difficult. The time spent cultivating was basically measured in years or decades. Basically, the longer one cultivated in the temple, the more they would be sought after by the high nobles. As for his mother-in-law, it was obvious that she had been cultivating for a long time. "Mr. Jiang Shang, I am very proud that Jia is able to serve you," the cheap mother-in-law said. "Now she is about to give birth to your descendant. Her life is in danger. I hope that you can use your supreme wisdom to save her life. Disciple, please accept my request." Then this cheap mother-in-law actually knelt down. Young Ding Tian quickly assisted her. This cheap mother-in-law in front of him did not seem to know his true identity. She was indeed like the other high nobles, full of admiration and fanaticism for the silent race. Therefore, even though she was his mother-in-law, she did not have the attitude of an elder at all. Instead, she put herself in a very low position and called herself a disciple. This kind of person should be the stupid person that Yao Qi and Jia were talking about. The stupid high nobles of the fox race, completely brainwashed by art, aesthetics, philosophy, and so on. However, Yang Dingtian had a good impression of her. Being simple was better than being cunning. After flying for another 20,000 miles, Yang Dingtian stepped onto the land of Silver City again. At the first moment, he saw Demon Rage 2, who was burning with anxiety. At this time, his cunning and scheming had all disappeared. His face was full of worry and fear. When he saw Yang Dingtian, he immediately grabbed his arm and dragged him into the Silver Palace. His wife trembled uneasily behind him and said, "Husband, husband, put him down, put him down. Don't be disrespectful to Mr. Jiang Shang." Demon Fury 2 glared at her and immediately pulled Yang Dingtian onto his carriage. Subsequently, they sped towards the Silver Palace at lightning speed. I will only say one thing. If you can't save Jia, you will die in the Silver Palace and be buried with her, Demon Rage 2 said firmly. Yang Dingtian, I'm not confident. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know how to save her. I don't care. Demon Rage 2 said sternly. Anyway, if Jia dies, you will die too. If not for you, how could she die? In fact, Yang Dingtian was the one who was forcefully pushed out. However, Yang Dingtian didn't say such words right now. Moreover, when he saw Yao Nu's anxious appearance at this moment, he had a slightly better impression of Yao Nu in his heart. It was only at this moment that this cunning and insidious politician showed some signs of humanity. I will do my best. Yang Dingtian. Although I don't know what to do. Soon, Yang Dingtian entered the Silver Palace again. He saw Yong Shiwentian. You're finally here. Yong Shiwentian said. Whether it's useful or not, you're not late. Yang Dingtian was about to salute, but Yong Shi waved his hand and said, Go in, go in. Demon Rage 2 did not say anything and directly dragged Yang Dingtian to the Red Leaf Palace. As soon as he got close, Yang Dingtian heard an incomparably painful scream. It was Jia's scream. It was hoarse, full of despair and pain. Hearing it, one's heart would tremble. After hearing it, Demon Rage 2's facial muscles twitched. He suddenly pushed Yang Dingtian and said, Save her or you die too. Then he quickly left. It was as if Jia's every scream was an unparalleled torture to him. Hearing the hoarse scream, Yang Dingtian walked into the Red Palace. Behind him, his cheap mother-in-law also hurried over. But when she was about to overtake Yang Dingtian, she immediately stopped and moved to the side. She bowed and let Yang Dingtian go first. This woman had really been brainwashed to the extreme. Yang Dingtian didn't have the time to lament as he rushed into the bedroom with quick steps. In the incomparably luxurious and comfortable palace, on the soft bed, the naked Jia with a big belly was suffering incomparable pain. Beside the bed, there were more than a dozen maids. At the head of the bed, there were 4 white-haired demon fox elders. They were the best female doctors in the demon fox clan. But facing the situation in front of them, there was nothing they could do, because all the demon foxes would be at least a few hundred years old by the time they gave birth. And their cultivation would be very high. There would be no difficult labor or dangerous situations. Therefore, the situation Jia was facing now was something they had never seen before. After seeing Jia's miserable state, the cheap mother-in-law finally forgot her fanatical worship of Jiang Shang of the silent tribe. She rushed over and grabbed Jia's hand tightly, crying, my baby, what happened to you? Don't scare me, don't scare me. At this moment, Jia's beautiful face was so pale that there was no trace of blood. There were even small cracks at the corners of her eyes, and blood was flowing out of the corners of her mouth. Her pain was completely unbearable. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she was tortured to the limit by the pain. After seeing Yang Dingtian, a ray of hope appeared in her eyes, which were originally in extreme pain. She sobbed and spoke in a trembling voice. Husband, save me, it's so painful, so painful. It was the first time she called Yang Dingtian like this. It was the first time she was full of weakness, dependence, and emotions. Yang Dingtian also put aside her previous framing and heartlessness. He went forward and grabbed her hand, asking the female elder, "What happened?" "Madam has been in pain for 9 days and 9 nights, but she just can't give birth," the female elder said weakly. 9 days and 9 nights? Yang Dingtian couldn't help but shudder. If it was a human, he would have already lost his life. "Why can't she give birth?" Yang Dingtian asked. "I don't know." The female elder cried and said, "We really don't know. Please forgive us, great sage." Yang Dingtian said, "Then prepare for a cesarean section. Just open the stomach and take her out." Although there were no anti-inflammatory needles or antibiotics in this plane, but Yang Dingtian knew that with Jia's cultivation, a cesarean section was definitely not a big problem. At most, after the operation, he could just give her a holy water pill. Yang Dingtian did not hesitate at all. He took out his sword and prepared to perform a cesarean section. At this moment, even a minute's delay was dangerous, because the light of vitality in Jia's beautiful eyes was getting weaker and weaker. "No, no," Jia cried and said. "It's the baby. The baby doesn't want to come out. Every time I want to give birth, he will desperately struggle in my stomach. If you perform a cesarean section, he will torture me to death." Sure enough, as soon as Yang Dingtian pulled out his sword, Jia's stomach suddenly surged fiercely. The baby inside made a fierce resistance. "Ah, ah." Jia let out an incomparably shrill scream, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. The vitality in her eyes was like a flame, quickly weakening and about to disappear. Yang Dingtian was stunned. It was really the baby who was resisting. The melon was ripe, but he was not willing to come out. Moreover, he could even feel the outside world. When Yang Dingtian pulled out his sword and was about to perform a cesarean section, he actually made the most violent reaction. Yang Dingtian immediately looked at Jia in disbelief. Descendant of a demigod? It was actually so heaven-defying. The baby in her stomach was even more demonic than Yang Yi's baby. Jia immediately looked at Yang Dingtian with a complicated look and said with a sad smile, Perhaps only my death will force him out." Keep the baby and sacrifice Jia? This was actually the most beneficial to Yang Dingtian. But he absolutely did not want to see this situation at this moment, even if Jia and he were more like enemies than lovers. At this moment, his heart instinctively pitied this woman who was in pain during childbirth. He is constantly devouring my energy, constantly devouring," Jia said weakly. Before, it was only a slight devouring. When it was about to give birth, he was already madly devouring my energy after the melon was ripe. Yang Dingtian immediately sensed Jia's energy reserve. Sure enough, he clearly felt that Jia's cultivation was rapidly flowing towards the baby in her stomach. Jia was very powerful before, above the half-saint level, but now, her cultivation was not as good as Yang Dingtian's. And the key point was that the baby in her stomach was devouring energy, not for the so-called cultivation, but for the instinct of survival. Because at this moment, he was already out of his mother's womb. He just did not want to come out of his mother's womb. If this went on, Jia would definitely die, because there was no way to stop the baby in her womb. Let others input energy to maintain the baby's devouring. Yang Dingtian thought that this could keep Jia alive for the time being. Otherwise, at this rate, Jia would die in less than half a day. No, someone has already done it. The baby only devours my energy, Jia said with a dying breath. He doesn't care about anyone else's energy. Yang Dingtian immediately fell silent. Perhaps the baby was still willing to devour his energy, because the blood in his body came from him. However, Yang Dingtian was a 9-star 9th grade great grandmaster, and he must break through to the half-saint level in a short time. If he let the baby devour his energy, his cultivation would recede like flowing water, and the consequences would be fatal. Moreover, he had paid such a huge price just to save Jia. This woman was more his enemy than his lover. Therefore, if he was rational, Yang Dingtian must not let the baby of the demigod's descendant devour his energy to maintain its survival in her womb. However, Yang Dingtian was usually irrational. Although Jia was his enemy, and she had framed him before. However, Yang Dingtian couldn't allow her to die in front of him. Furthermore, she was carrying his child in her womb. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian put his hand on Jiya's big belly and slowly injected a stream of qi into it. Jiya's beautiful eyes suddenly revealed a look of disbelief. She knew very well that Jiang Shang hated her to the core. She had harmed him more than once or twice. Of course, it was hard to say whether he was Jiang Shang or not. Suddenly, Jiya's heart seemed to be hit by some special soft energy. Then, when Yang Dingtian injected his qi, something magical happened. The baby, who was tossing and turning inside, suddenly quieted down. Chapter 800. When Yang Dingtian injected his celestial qi, something magical happened. The baby, who had been tossing and turning inside, suddenly quieted down. Then, the baby began to greedily absorb the energy that Yang Dingtian injected. Jiya was suddenly freed from the abyss of suffering. Just when Yang Dingtian bitterly felt that his cultivation began to flow away, the baby inside suddenly stopped. Then he began to quiet down. Yang Dingtian could even feel that he was pricking up his ears to feel everything outside. Yang Dingtian carefully climbed down and put his ear on Jiya's belly. The baby inside gently nudged Jiya's belly. Yang Dingtian reached out and gently stroked the baby's head. Then, the baby nudged another spot. Yang Dingtian reached out and stroked that spot again. After that, the baby seemed to enjoy playing the same game as Yang Dingtian and did not crazily absorb Jiya's energy anymore. Jiya, who was freed from the pain, suddenly felt as if she was in heaven. Looking at Yang Dingtian playing games with the baby through her belly, she burst into tears. That feeling of warmth and happiness almost destroyed everything in an instant. Yang Dingtian seemed to be able to understand the thoughts of the demigod baby in his belly. He felt very safe and comfortable in his mother's belly. He did not have any sense of security in the outside world, so he was unwilling to come out. In fact, in the Earth era, every baby was like that. They did everything they could to stay in their mother's belly and not come out. For this reason, they even resisted, such as making their mother have a fever and so on. However, this was the baby of a demigod descendant, so the resistance was much more intense and almost killed his mother. Of course, he did not know the consequences of this. He just did it instinctively. But now, Yang Dingtian's sudden appearance had allowed him to sense another aura that was connected to his bloodline. He felt another sense of security. It turned out that there was another person in this world who was related to him by blood. Perhaps, leaving his mother's belly and going to a new world was not so bad after all. Yang Dingtian gently stroked the baby in his belly and said softly, "Good baby, come out. Come out and see daddy. Don't torment mommy, okay?" The baby in her belly was still quiet. It didn't even play games with Yang Dingtian. A moment later, Jiya's body suddenly twitched as she screamed. Yang Dingtian was shocked. Could it be that the baby was tormenting her and absorbing her energy again? It's open, it's open. The Demon Fox clan's female elder exclaimed. Next, Jiya cried out in joy. A baby weighing close to 10 kilograms was successfully delivered. The world's second demigod descendant was born in this world. In other words, this child was even purer than Yang Bao. Yang Dingtian held the baby in his arms and was stunned. It was a baby boy, and he didn't look like a newborn at all. He looked like a 1-month-old baby. What surprised Yang Dingtian the most was that he did not have the characteristics of the Fox clan. Instead, there were a few cute purple scales on his neck and lumbar vertebrae. Like Yang Bao, his ears were a little pointy and had delicate golden scales. Why was it like this? This demigod baby was completely different from Yang Bao. Darling, let me hold you, let me hold you. Jiya couldn't wait and said softly. Yang Dingtian was really not used to hearing Jiya's soft and tender voice. He quickly handed the baby over. Jiya held the baby in her arms. Her beautiful but bloodshot eyes carefully looked at every corner of the baby. Her eyes were filled with incomparable love. She said softly, "Little rascal, you've tormented your mother to death." Ah! The baby yawned and opened his eyes lazily. He seemed to be looking at Yang Dingtian, But he didn't seem to be looking at him anymore. He seemed to be carefully observing the world. Then Jia put the baby in front of her chest. The baby opened his little mouth and sucked instinctively, making grunting sounds as he sucked. After eating for a full 15 minutes, the baby was full and fell into a deep sleep. It was really strange. The extremely domineering and demonic baby in the womb was not much different from other babies after being born, except for some physical characteristics. The kind of demonic situation where he communicated with his parents and even spoke directly did not happen. As such, young Dingtian heaved a sigh of relief. He really didn't want his child to be too different from the other children. Jia was indeed a female powerhouse of the Fox clan. She was on the verge of death after being tormented by the baby, but she immediately regained her vitality after being born. Her originally pale face also became radiant. Great virtuous master. According to the rules of the Fox clan, after giving birth, the husband has to wash his wife's body with essential oil and carry her to another room. A female Fox clan elder said. Okay, young Dingtian said. Then, his mother-in-law brought over warm water and poured natural essential oil into it. My lord, please. The mother-in-law regained her respect for the silent clan. Young Dingtian used a handkerchief to carefully wipe every inch of Jia's body. Then, he helped her put on a soft nightgown and carried her and the baby to another room. This was a dreamlike room. Everything was blue. Jia had prepared 2 rooms. If it was a girl, it would be a pink room. If it was a boy, it would be a blue room. In this room, it was like being in an ocean. After putting Jia and the baby on the big bed, only Jia and Yang Dingtian were left in the room. For a moment, Yang Dingtian did not know what to do. What should I call you, Your Excellency? Your Excellency? Suddenly Jia asked in a mocking tone. Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian said awkwardly. Jia asked. Chairman Yaoqi also knows. Yes, Yang Dingtian said. Chairman Yongxi, your father, Yaoli clan leader, also knows. Jia sighed softly and did not say anything. She gently leaned her soft body into Yang Dingtian's arms and gently rubbed her hair against his chest. Yang Dingtian is better than Jiang Shang of the Silent Clan, Jia suddenly said. I have always been disgusted by the Silent Clan's lifeless negativity. You humans, on the other hand, are too lively for us. Yang Dingtian did not say anything. Just like this, Jia quietly lay in Yang Dingtian's arms and breathed softly. She did not say anything, but she was laughing at herself in her heart. She thought that she was strong and would never be as vulgar as an ordinary woman. Saying that the closest path to a woman's heart was between her legs was simply ridiculous. She, Jia, could have sex with a man and then turn around to kill that man without any feelings. However, when a man kept on possessing you, when you gave birth to his child, then, all the talk about being strong and ruthless would be nonsense. He would naturally become the most important person to you. Especially after having a child, the 3 of them would become a whole. Even 2 unrelated men and women would seem to have the same blood flowing in their veins. There seemed to be no more intimate relationship in the world. Suddenly, Jia raised her head and looked at Yang Dingtian. She said softly, Husband, let's make up. Okay, let's make up, Yang Dingtian said with a smile. Yang Dingtian went to see Yongxi again and talked about what had happened in the human countries during this time. Of course, he did not hide his fear and suspicion of Yongxi, so the conversation was a little awkward. But when facing Demon Wrath 2, he became incomparably natural. Because of the birth of a new baby, a real descendant of a demigod, the alliance between Demon Wrath 2 and Yang Dingtian became closer. Your Excellency, in the following time, my only goal is to break through to the half-saint level, and it would be best if I could do it within half a year, Yang Dingtian said. Half a year? Demon Wrath 2 said. According to you humans, you are now a 9-star level 9 Great Grandmaster. Do you know how much energy is needed to break through to the half-saint level? Yang Dingtian said. I know. It's far more than the energy needed to break through from a 1-star Great Grandmaster to a 9-star level 9 Great Grandmaster. No, it's much more. Demon Wrath 2 said. I've read the records of you humans. Those top powerhouses need 45 years to break through to a 9-star level 9 Great Grandmaster from an Enlightener. And from a 9-star level 9 Great Grandmaster to a half-saint level, it takes at least 15 years. It can even take 50 years, or even 100 years. I know, Yang Dingtian said. I understand the huge amount of energy needed to break through to the half-saint level. But the key is energy, not time. Then Yang Dingtian said, Your Excellency Demon Wrath, do you know the savior of mankind in ancient times, Nihility Piaoling? Demon Wrath too nodded and said, Of course I know. He can be said to be the greatest powerhouse of mankind. He is almost the only human who is respected by us. Moreover, he has been to our Little Western Paradise, or he discovered the Great Nirvana last time. Little Western Paradise will be a very special place, so he has left footprints on almost every inch of Little Western Paradise. In order to commemorate the places he has been, some caves and mountains are named after him. Yang Dingtian said, Then why haven't I seen any books about Nihility Piao Yen in the Silver Palace's library? Demon Wrath too said, I am not the chairman, so I have no right to consult the Silver Palace's library. But I feel that Nihility Piao Yen is almost one of the most important figures in Little Western Paradise. There should be a lot of books about him. Even a few hundred years ago, many chairmen set up special organizations to study Nihility Piao Yen and explore every place he has been. These organizations were completely banned until Chairman Yongxi, because he wanted to change the direction of the Demon Fox civilization and turn it to art and philosophy. Yang Dingtian understood that all the records and books about the Shiwu Piaoyan had been destroyed or hidden away. They had been completely banned. And the executor was undoubtedly Yongxi Wentian, because there were a lot of important secrets that Yongxi Wentian didn't want people to know. Yang Dingtian said, Then how much does the patriarch know about Nihility Piao Yen? Demon Wrath too shook his head and said, I definitely don't know as much as you, because the chairman values these exclusive secrets very much. And us patriarchs don't care about these distant secrets. Yang Dingtian said, Then, how much does the Demon Wrath know about the Void Border? It is the Void Border with Void Beasts, Night Owl Beasts, and Demon Spirits. Demon Wrath too said, First of all, let me correct your concept. The Void Border doesn't refer to a certain place. There are many Void Borders in the entire Chaos world, and your human countries also have them. Moreover, Void Beasts, Night Owl Beasts, and Demon Spirits are not in the same Void Border. There is only one Overlord in each Void Border. Every Void Border is an independent world, but it is connected through a special spatial door. In your world, it is called the Void Border, but in our world, it is called the Dark Realm. Yang Dingtian was stunned. Dark Realm? Was it the Dark Realm that Yao Li had cultivated for many years in order to become stronger? The so-called Void Border, or the Dark Realm. Demon Wrath too said, Actually, it is the intersection of the first world, the second world, and the third world. Some overlapping places have become the Void Border. You have been to the Forbidden Continent's illusory realm. I believe you also know that the Chaos world has been destroyed many times. So this world is divided into several parts. The first world refers to those worlds that are completely dead. It is called the Dark Continent, and has completely collapsed. There is no life, not even energy life can survive. The second world is the world that is about to die. Only pure elemental life and energy life can survive there. The third world is the world that was destroyed in the last Great Nirvana. Most creatures can no longer survive there, but a few extremely powerful creatures can still survive. For example, the ruins of the Naga Empire belong to the third world. The fourth world is the Little Western Paradise. In the last Great Nirvana, the continent of the Little Western Paradise had been torn apart and became fragmented. However, the Chaos world used a special method to protect it and turned it into the Little Western Paradise that is full of scars. Yang Dingtian interrupted at this time. Then our human countries, including the Dongli grassland, is the fifth world, right? No, your world is not called the fifth world. Demon Wrath too said. It is called the surviving world. And it is also called the last world. Yang Dingtian said. because the Little Western Paradise's environment is worse than that of the human countries. So the demon fox race in the Little Western Paradise is also relatively powerful. Demon Wrath 2 said, "This is one of the reasons. Of course, there is another reason, and that is that the Little Western Paradise is a surviving world before the Great Nirvana. So its energy level is also 10,000 years ago. And the Xianqi energy of the human countries is after the Great Nirvana, so it is relatively thin." Yang Dingtian said, "Then if you want to break through to the half-saint realm in a short time, there is only one way, and that is to go to the Dark Realm?" "Yes," Demon Wrath 2 said. "Not only humans, even our demon fox race. If we want to become stronger, we have to go to the Dark Realm to cultivate. Whether it is to break through to the so-called half-saint or saint level, going to the Dark Realm to cultivate is the only way." Chapter 801. Does that mean that the so-called second world and third world belong to the Dark Realm? Yang Dingtian asked. "Yes," Demon Rage 2 said. "Of course this definition is very, very broad. The third world is still okay, especially the second world. No one knows how many times it has been destroyed. It is just called the second world." Yang Dingtian asked. "Then where is the Dark Realm that the Fox Demon clan usually cultivates in?" "The third world," Demon Rage 2 said. "Of course, don't have any hope of entering the ruins of the Naga Empire. For thousands of years, who knows how many fox demons have entered the Dark Realm to cultivate, but they did not even touch the borders of the Naga Empire. Or to put it more bluntly, the so-called Dark Realm that the Demon Fox clan cultivates in is only an area of less than 10,000 miles. Any deeper in would be isolated by the border of the abyss. Anyone who falls in would be completely lost." Yang Dingtian asked, "I'm not considered a member of the Fox Demon clan. Can I enter the Dark Realm to cultivate?" "No," Demon Rage 2 said. "Of course, it's not that you are not allowed to go, but because the door to the Dark Realm has not opened, so you can't enter." Yang Dingtian was stunned. "The door to the Dark Realm? Is it the second door in the Great Hall of Skulls, the colorless door?" "Yes," Demon Rage 2 said. "The time that this door opens is not very regular, but it basically only opens once every 100 years. Unfortunately, this colorless door had just opened nearly a year ago, so it will not open again in a short period of time, unless nearly 100 years later." Yang Dingtian remembered that Yaoli had just come out of the Dark Realm nearly a year ago. It seemed that it was impossible to enter the Dark Realm through the colorless door in the Great Hall of Skulls. Yang Dingtian said, "By the way, I remember you said that there are actually many natural abyss borders in the world. That is the junction between several worlds, and it may lead directly to the Dark Realm, right?" "Yes," Demon Rage 2 said. "The colorless door in the Great Hall of Skulls is definitely not the only entrance to the Dark Realm. At the edge of Little Western Paradise in your human world, there are many mysterious abyssal borders that lead to the Umbral Realm. However, these borders and the Dark Realm are separated by an illusory void that no life form can cross. Once one enters, one will be completely lost." "Are there any exceptions?" Yang Dingtian asked. Monster Rage 2 glanced at Yang Dingtian and said, "I heard that the void-rending fire can help you pass through the abyss border's energy field. But it's just hearsay." Instantly, Yang Dingtian's face was filled with disappointment. Even though he was pleasantly surprised in his heart, he still revealed his disappointment at the first moment. This was because he couldn't tell even Demon Fury 2 the secret of obtaining the void-rending flame. In this way, the Dishibian would not be able to cross the abyss border. However, this was still good news. The fact that the Void Fire could cross the border of the abyss meant that Yang Dingtian could go to the Dark Realm, the Third World, and even the ruins of the Naga Empire through other channels. Perhaps this was the reason why the void-rending flame could lead to the ruins of the Naga Empire. It was because the void-rending flame could pass through the border of the abyss. He temporarily put aside the matter of the Dark Realm. Yang Dingtian thought of another important matter, which was to kill Dongli. Because he had suffered a complete failure in conquering High Xian, and had his eyes dug out by Yang Dingtian. He must hate him to the core. Perhaps he had already become a mad dog. Once he returned to the human countries, he would definitely take revenge on Yang Dingtian. Moreover, this person would definitely not have a bottom line like Mu Dan. He would definitely make a move on Yang Dingtian. Therefore, Yang Dingtian would do everything possible to kill him. However, just as Yang Dingtian was about to open his mouth and ask Monster Rage 2 to help kill Dongli, he immediately stopped. Because, how did Yang Dingtian know that Dongli was in Little Western Paradise? If he knew, then to a large extent, it meant that he had seen through Yongxi Wentian. Monster Rage 2 was now an ally of Yang Dingtian, but he needed Yongxi Wentian more. Although he did not know that Yongxi had been possessed, he did not care about this. He only cared about one thing, and that was that Yongxi would push Jia to become the new chairman 200 years later. Therefore, in Monster Rage 2's heart, Yongxi Wentian was more important than Yang Dingtian. Once Yang Dingtian asked him to kill Dongli, it was very likely that he would report this to Yongxi Wentian. At that time, Yongxi would know that Yang Dingtian had seen through him. Then the problem would be big. Therefore, he could not let Yongxi kill Dongli. Yang Dingtian had to do it himself. If Dongli had not obtained a first-class evil spirit, then Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian should be enough to kill him. But if Dongli had obtained a first-class evil spirit, then, Yang Dingtian changed his words. Your Excellency Monster Rage, you are very fond of Jia, but what about Yaorao? She is also your daughter, and Yang Yi is also your grandson. Monster Rage 2 twitched slightly and said, What are you trying to say? Yang Dingtian replied, You might not know this, but the evil Dao's Dongli might have successfully obtained the Void Crack Flame, and had even nurtured the Darkness Mystic Flame. But he was still unable to make the Snake Man race go into estrus. Therefore his lifelong mission failed. I became the only human who could make the Naga tribe and the Fox tribe go into estrus. Therefore, he hates me to the bone. He does not dare to kill me, but he will extend his claws of revenge to my family. Yaorao and Yang Yi are also your family, so I want to ask for your help. Monster Rage's face revealed a slightly strange expression. Why don't you let Yaorao and Yang Yi come to Indu to accompany Jia and her son? Yang Dingtian said. But the mother and son are no longer willing. Because everything that happened in the Silver Palace gave them very bad memories. Monster Rage said. Then what do you want to do? Yang Dingtian said. I don't know if he has obtained a first great evil spirit. If he has not, then my Council of Light can still kill him. But if he has obtained a first great evil spirit, then we will not be able to control him. I hope to get your help to get rid of this Dongli. Monster Rage said. You must know, that means that I am completely hostile to the evil ways. You also know how powerful Wentian of the evil ways is now. Don't you think you have overestimated the strength of our alliance? Or to put it more realistically, your greatest use to me is to help Jia give birth to a demigod descendant, and you have already succeeded. Your value to me is not that great. You only have the identity of a great sage, and since you are not stationed in the Little Western Paradise, this identity is not that useful. Yang Dingtian became silent. This Monster Rage is really cold and heartless. Just a moment ago, he was still amiable, but now he suddenly turned hostile. Yang Dingtian did not mind and said, Then can I ask your excellency to send a half-sage expert to protect Cloud Heaven City, and protect Yaorao and her son? Monster Rage looked at Yang Dingtian and said, Your excellency, Yaorao has left home for a few hundred years, and she is already your woman. Then, you can only be responsible for her safety. Moreover, after a fox demon expert enters a human country, their cultivation will drop rapidly. No one will accept such a mission. Yang Dingtian once again felt the coldness of a high-leveled civilization. When there was no conflict of interest, you were good, I was good, and everyone was good. But even if there was a little conflict, it would completely change. Of course, Yang Dingtian also felt a wave of dissatisfaction with himself. In the past, he had always relied on his own strength, and would not beg anyone. But he was doing this for his family, so he had no choice but to bend down. Got it, then I will take my leave, Yang Dingtian said. Half an hour later, Monster Rage 2 appeared in Yong Shi Wentian's secret room and told Yong Shi what Yang Dingtian had said. When he heard that the Void Fisher Fire might be able to pass through the Abyss border, his face showed disappointment. Yong Shi asked. Yes, he showed disappointment. Monster Rage 2 said. He asked you to help kill Dongli. Is there a sense of urgency, such as today or tomorrow? Yong Shi Wentian asked. No. Monster Rage 2 said. Demon Rage 2 said. Based on what he said, he wants me to send an expert above the half-saint level to guard Cloud Sky City and protect his family. You refused? Yong Shi Wentian asked. Yes, I refused. Monster Rage 2 said. Alright, I understand. Yong Shi Wentian said. Goodbye. Monster Rage 2 said. A moment later, Dongli appeared in front of Yong Shi Wentian. After being imprisoned for more than half a year, he had lost a lot of weight, and his face had become thin and pale. After imprisoning you for half a year, have you thought it through? Yong Shi Wentian asked. Yes, foster father, Dongli said. Yang Dingtian can't be killed now, nor can he die. Although my mission to conquer the Naga race has failed, I can't give up on myself like Yu Ming. I haven't contributed any value to deities Templar and His Majesty Demon King. No, you haven't thought it through, Yong Shi Wentian said. If you really think it through, you will be like Yu Ming, confused and unable to find your goal and direction in life. Although you won't kill Yang Dingtian, you will take revenge on his family, his loved ones, right? Dongli's handsome and thin face suddenly twitched. He didn't want to admit it, but he also didn't want to lie. He really thought so. After being imprisoned for more than half a year, he still couldn't extinguish the hatred in his heart. Answer me, Yong Shi Wentian said coldly. Yes, Dongli said in a trembling voice. Foster father, I don't understand. Yang Dingtian is the only one who can make the Naga race and Demon Fox race go into heat. So he can't die, I can only accept it. Why can't I touch his family? Why do I have to let him be so comfortable? Yong Shi Wentian said. Because there is someone inside who absolutely can't be touched. But you can't tell anyone who can't be touched. So you can't touch them, understand? Dongli was startled. His mind began to recall Yang Dingtian's wives and children. He wanted to know who exactly can't be touched. Foster father, tell me, who can't be touched? Dongli said. Ah. Yong Shi Wentian laughed with anger and disappointment. He waved his hand and said, You can leave. No words can describe Yong Shi Wentian's disappointment. Dongli in front of him had been completely blinded by hatred and jealousy. He had unexpectedly become so stupid. The secret he had just told Dongli was a top secret. Dongli's memory of this conversation would soon be washed away. He still had the extravagant hope that Yong Shi would tell him who can't be touched. Such an idiot. Could he still complete the mission of the evil ways? Yong Shi Wentian had to carefully consider Dongli's future. Half an hour later, Wu Yu entered Yong Shi Wentian's secret room and said, The secret you just told Dongli has been violently washed away by the spirit master in his mind. But we got some very, very negative things. What? Yong Shi Wentian asked. Hatred, even hatred towards us. Wu Yu said, he even wants to conspire with Snake People Empire's High Excion, after breaking through to the semi-sage realm, completely banishing Yu Ming and Mu Dan to the dark world with void fire, then forcing Wolingzi to submit. Finally, he will completely close the door of the human countries. He wants to dominate the human countries alone, and share the entire Vitality continent with Queen High Excion. He's really deranged, Yong Shi Wentian said indifferently. Since he wants to daydream like this, then let's fulfill his wish. Does he want to kill Yang Dingtian? Let him have a taste of Yang Dingtian's butcher's knife. He can also have a taste of Yang Dingtian. Then give up on him? Wu Yu asked. Yong Shi Wentian fell into silence. In the next day, Yang Dingtian didn't leave Jia and her daughter's side. Because he could only stay here for one day, he wanted to spend as much time as possible with the baby. Of course, he didn't mention bringing Jia's baby back to Cloud Sky City. Although he wanted to do so, he knew that it was completely impossible. That night, Yang Dingtian sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the sleeping baby. Jia suddenly said, Are you going to sit like this for the whole night? Yang Dingtian was startled. Previously, when they were like enemies, Yang Dingtian could sleep with Jia with a clear conscience. But now it became unnatural. You're about to leave. Are you not even willing to give me a night of tenderness? Jia said. Yang Dingtian was slightly embarrassed and immediately climbed up. Then Jia actually reached out to take off Yang Dingtian's clothes. This isn't good, right? Yang Dingtian said. You just gave birth to the baby. What's not good? I didn't say what I was going to do. Jia said. I just want to hug you from a distance. Just like that. Yang Dingtian hugged Jia's plump body and lay down quietly. The women of the demon fox race didn't need to go through confinement. Moreover, women with high cultivation could recover their figure very quickly. Therefore, when Yang Dingtian hugged Jia's waist, he was completely shocked. At this time, she had completely regained her elastic and compact waist. In just one day, her figure had returned to normal, but it was slightly more plump. Our demon fox race is different from humans. Not only has our waist recovered, but our entire body has also recovered. Jia said. The women of the demon fox race with high bloodline also have many intimate relationships with their husbands on the second day after giving birth. Let's not, Yang Dingtian said awkwardly. Chapter 802. After hearing Yang Dingtian's words, Jia couldn't help but roll her eyes in the dark. You're thinking too much. I've been tormented to death for 10 days and 10 nights. I'm traumatized by that. Yang Dingtian immediately hugged her and gently stroked her belly, as if he wanted to heal her wounds. Are you this gentle to other women as well? Jia asked. Ah yes, Yang Dingtian replied. Then among your women, what's my ranking in terms of beauty? Jia asked. Yang Dingtian felt a headache coming on. What's the point of comparing this? Tell me, you're not allowed to lie. Jia twisted her body. Yang Dingtian didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want to tell the truth. It really gave him a headache. About the same as Dongfang Bingling and Wu Maji. You should be one of the most beautiful, Yang Dingtian said ambiguously. Anyway, in terms of pure beauty, Naga Shuang was at the top of the pyramid. However, Jia seemed to be satisfied with this answer. Then she asked in a very unhappy tone. Oh right, as a man, why do you have so many women? And all of them are outstanding beauties? Yang Dingtian didn't want to be pretentious, but it was the truth. I really don't want to. In my opinion, 2 is enough. Why 2? Jia asked. Are you so filthy inside? Why not 1? Yang Dingtian replied. I know it's shameless, but that's what I really think. You're really a shameless human, Jia said. Then she turned around and hugged Yang Dingtian's neck. She pouted her fragrant lips and kissed him. The next morning, Demon Rage 2 met Yang Dingtian early. Alright, you should go. If you're late, Cloud Sky City might be in trouble. Of course, if you want to do something, you have to hurry. What do you mean? Yang Dingtian was shocked. Demon Rage 2 said. That's all I can say. Leave immediately and return to Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. Could it be Dongli? At present, only the mad dog Dongli would hurt his family. Yang Dingtian immediately returned to Jiya's room. The females of the Demon Fox clan did not need to undergo confinement. Hence, Jiya had already woken up. However, the baby was still sleeping soundly on the small bed. This baby, who had once been very heaven-defying, didn't seem to be so heaven-defying after birth. Like other babies, he only ate and slept all day long. He didn't even open his eyes much. What made Yang Dingtian very happy was that he was the same as other babies. He would also pee his pants and poop. This is good, this is good. Yang Dingtian did not want his baby to be different from others. Even if it was the descendant of a demigod, Yang Dingtian still wanted it to live a normal life. Speaking of which, normal human babies were very powerful in their mother's womb. They could do somersaults and walk. However, after birth, they would not be able to do so. At least for more than a month, they would only eat and sleep every day. At this moment, Jiya was sitting in front of a big mirror, dressing up. The females of the Demon Fox clan were really heaven-defying. Almost immediately after giving birth, their figures had completely recovered. The current Jia, apart from being slightly plump, had a devilish figure. In fact, she was even more devilish than when she was not pregnant. I'm going back, young Dingtian said. Jia turned her delicate body and said, help me cut off this eyebrow before you go. It's a bit crooked. All right. Yang Dingtian then stepped forward and used a small pair of scissors to gently cut off the eyebrow that was actually quite perfect. Jia gently snuggled into Yang Dingtian's arms and said, after you go back, don't forget about us. I won't, Yang Dingtian said. Jia looked up and Yang Dingtian kissed her red little mouth. Then, he walked to the small bed and kissed the baby's little face, looking at his little face greedily. Another face that was as beautiful as his mother's. Speaking of which, Yang Dingtian was not handsome, but his sons were really very beautiful. Let's go. Yang Dingtian then turned and left. Jia sat naked in front of the mirror. She gently bit her lips and blinked her big eyes hard, holding back the tears in her eyes. Then, she hugged her beautiful delicate body with both arms. How strong was she in the past? But Yao Qi, who was her life idol, died, giving her the first heavy blow. Then, the birth of the baby gave her the second heavy blow. Finally, Yang Dingtian came to her rescue from thousands of miles away, giving her the third heavy blow. As a result, a cold, heartless, and strong-hearted woman became soft and gentle. After leaving the Silver Palace, Yang Dingtian used his fastest speed to return to the Hall of Skulls. He used the Demon Spirit Mist Cloak Flash technique, Flying Mystic skills, and the fastest flying cavalry of the Shadow Spear clan. In less than 20 hours, Yang Dingtian had already returned to the Hall of Skulls. At this time, Dishi Bian was already waiting in the Hall of Skulls according to the agreement. Did anything happen in Cloud Sky City? Yang Dingtian asked. When you were in the Hall of Skulls, did anyone pass by here? Dishi Bian shook his head and said, if something happened in Cloud Sky City, the demon vulture would immediately come to the Hall of Skulls to report. That's right. Because of the cultivation in the Forbidden Continent's illusion, the Council of Light now had close to 30 powerful demon vultures. Of course, these demon vultures were not as strong as the demon vulture King Aja, but most of them had already broken through the 8th level. Therefore, in terms of combat power, they were still much weaker than the demon vulture King Aja, and their flying speed was also much slower. However, when each of them flew rapidly, their speed could reach more than 1,500 miles per hour, and some of them were even close to 2,000 miles per hour. Of course, the demon vulture King Aja's flying speed was already more than 2,000 miles per hour, which was the best in the entire chaotic world. Once it flew, even a half-saint expert could not catch up. That's good, Yang Dingtian said. Dishi Bian said, in about an hour, the demon spirit will come in, and then we can go out. Okay. Yang Dingtian then immediately sat down cross-legged, took a Xian gathering pill, and began to quickly recover his Xian Qi. An hour later, the green door of the human kingdom in the Hall of Skulls suddenly opened, and then the demon spirit and Shadowless flew in. Let's go. Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian quickly rushed out. After the demon spirit and Shadowless came in, they quickly woke up in the illusion of the Forbidden Continent. Then, they saw a line of words on the ground. Demon Spirit Shadowless. Immediately enter the Little Western Paradise. Don't stay in the Hall of Skulls. Then follow the original plan. This was left by the sect master, Shadowless said. After reading it, he immediately wiped the words on the ground, and then pointed to the silver door of the Little Western Paradise with the demon spirit. Don't worry, I can read, the demon spirit said in the demon fox language, and then pulled Shadowless, opened the silver door, and entered the Little Western Paradise. Anyway, the demon spirit somewhat missed the Little Western Paradise. Not long after Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian left the Forbidden Continent, they saw the demon vulture King Aja. The two of them rode on Aja's back. Aja, land and dive into the sea, Yang Dingtian said. Suddenly, Aja screeched, and then swooped down and dived into the deep sea. Then, a demon vulture and two people lurked in the sea, carefully watching the situation in the sky. 2 hours later, a familiar figure appeared in the sky above the sea. It was Queen Hai Xian's servant, Gui Wuxi, and another unfamiliar figure. Dishi Bian's voice directly passed through the sea and drilled into Yang Dingtian's ears. During this period, the experts of the Snakemen Empire came to the Forbidden Continent Sea area at a fixed time every day and entered the Hall of Skulls every day, but they didn't interfere with us. Dishi Bian said, they even cooperated with us. Yang Dingtian nodded. Sure enough, Gui Wuxi still stayed at the entrance of the Forbidden Continent Sea area, and another unfamiliar figure rushed into the Hall of Skulls directly. About half an hour later, an incomparably familiar figure entered Yang Dingtian's vision. Sure enough, it was Dongli. These two experts of the Snakemen Empire came to the Forbidden Continent Sea area every day during this period to pick up Dongli. Gui Wuxi greeted Dongli and said, Prime Minister, Her Majesty the Queen is waiting for you to go back. She said that no matter what, you are still her Prime Minister. Dongli's thin and handsome face twitched. Tell the Queen that I will go back, but not now. Gui Wuxi said, But Her Majesty the Queen asked me to bring you back. Dongli said coldly, I said that I won't go back now. After I finish my business, I will naturally go back. Gui Wuxi, I know that you have feelings for the Queen, but don't forget that I am your master. You are a person of my evil ways, and I am your young master. Yes, young master. Gui Wuxi bowed. Then, you can go back to the capital of the Snakemen Empire and tell Her Majesty the Queen that although I can't make her go into heat, I will prove my value in another way. Dongli said, I still have things to do. Gui Wuxi said, What things? How about I help you complete them? I want you to go back. Did you hear me? Dongli looked at Gui Wuxi and said word by word. Dongli has changed his eyes. Although he can gradually see some things, this pair of eyes that don't belong to him are inlaid in his eye sockets. Therefore, although this pair of eyes is very beautiful, after looking at it, there is always a kind of scary feeling. Yes, young master, Gui Wuxi said, and then flew towards the northern Snakemen Empire. Dongli, on the other hand, flew towards Cloud Sky City in the east. He had been suppressing this anger for a very, very long time. He had to vent it out. He will definitely not let Yang Dingtian have an easy time. How can there be such a good thing in the world? What kind of peerless beauty is yours? Queen Hai Xian is the goddess of his dreams, the goal of his life. But now Yang Dingtian is actually benefiting. Good, you snatched my woman. Then I will also snatch your woman, we are even. Dongli felt the fire in his heart fiercely burning. Every step closer to Cloud Heaven City, the fire in his heart became fiercer. The place Yang Dingtian chose to kill Dongli is Li Shui Villa. Of course, this is for the sake of being conservative. After all, Dongli has been a 9-star 9th grade great grandmaster for a long time. In addition, he has obtained the void-splitting fire. So perhaps he is closer to the sage-to-be than Yang Dingtian. He is an unlimited 9-star 9th grade great grandmaster. Therefore, if he and Dishi Bian are not a match for Dongli, then Yang Dingtian will use Phantom Spirit Demon Mother. In short, he must succeed this time. After Dongli flew towards Cloud Heaven City, Yang Dingtian immediately rode Demon Eagle King Azu and flew towards the south. Then, he turned a corner and flew in front of Dongli. Because Dongli is riding the Snakemen Empire's winged cavalry, his flying speed is less than 1,000 miles per hour. Demon Eagle King Azu can easily overtake him. A few hours later, Yang Dingtian and Dishi Bian rode Demon Eagle King Azu and arrived above Li Shui Villa. Then, they made the relevant arrangements here and waited for Dongli's arrival. A few hours later, Dishi Bian nodded at Yang Dingtian, then rode Demon Eagle King and flew towards the west. She is going to lure Dongli here, because Li Shui Villa is not the only way for Dongli to go to Cloud Heaven City. Of course, there is a certain risk for Dishi Bian to lure Dongli. But this risk is minimal, because Dishi Bian's cultivation is very high and Demon Eagle King Azu's speed is extremely fast. Dongli can't catch up. Dishi Bian rode on Demon Eagle King Azu and flew thousands of miles away. As he expected, he saw Dongli in the air. Then, Dishi Bian exclaimed exaggeratedly, which immediately attracted Dongli's attention. Dongli's eyesight is not good. but he immediately recognized Dishi Bian's voice. This is also Yang Dingtian's woman, and it is completely unforgettable for Dongli. This woman's beauty is not inferior to Wu Maji. And most importantly, it is said that Yang Dingtian has not gotten his hands on this woman yet. Moreover, this woman has an incomparably special and charming taste. Suddenly, Dongli's desire was ignited and he said ferociously, "Good, good. There is a road to heaven but you don't take it. There is no door to hell but you barge in. Yang Dingtian, my revenge on you begins now." Then Dongli chased frantically. Without waiting for Dishi Bian to speak, Demon Eagle King, Azu immediately turned around and flew in the direction of Li Shui Villa. In the blink of an eye, Dongli's winged cavalry was left behind without a trace. Dongli was furious. He immediately abandoned his winged cavalry and used his flying mystic skill to fly quickly and chase quickly. He is also really powerful. Using his flying mystic skill, he actually reached nearly 2,000 miles per hour under crazy flight. However, he is still not Demon Eagle King as his opponent, but he will not be completely left behind. In this way, Dongli was directly led into the ambush of Li Shui Villa by Dishi Bian and Demon Eagle King Azu. After entering the sky above Li Shui Villa, suddenly, Demon Eagle King Azu stopped abruptly, and Dishi Bian turned around abruptly and floated in the air. Azu immediately spread his wings and flew high, fleeing far away. In the sky above the Li Water Manor, the incomparably beautiful Di Bian was floating on the surface of the lake, looking incomparably beautiful. Even if Dongli's eyesight is weak, he can still see her peerless figure. He stopped abruptly, looked at Di Bian's silhouette, and sneered. "You led me here to set me up to ambush me, didn't you? Who else is it, Yang Dingtian? With just the two of you, you want to ambush me and kill me? Dream on." Then, he continued to rush towards Dishi Bian and laughed harshly. "Today, I will cripple Yang Dingtian, and then humiliate you over and over again in front of him." Pa! Yang Dingtian's figure suddenly drilled out of the water. At the same time, a devil sky-splitting lightning with all his strength struck down towards Dongli with incomparable ferocity. A huge lightning bolt of several thousand meters appeared almost instantly. The speed was extremely fast, and it directly struck Dongli's head. The thunder attribute mystic skill is so powerful, fast to the extreme, close to the speed of light, no one can dodge it. Moreover, it ignores any defense. The incomparably powerful thunder energy suddenly drilled into Dongli's body. His entire body burst out with terrifying flames. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.